Hey everybody, ReefGrrl here, and welcome to ReefGrrl Live. I'm so glad you could make it. The whole idea here is to have some fun, chat, ask a few questions, maybe show us what you're doing, and get to know each other a little bit better. So sit back, relax, grab a drink. The stream is about to begin. Hi everybody, glad you could make it. We've got 8 people in here right off the bat. That's awesome. I do also have True Skills waiting in the waiting room, and once I go through and say hi to everyone who's here, then we can bring them in and see what's going on. Well, I guess I should say too, from last week I was so busy that's why the live stream was canceled, because I just ran myself right out of time. So I took the night off, and now I'm all fresh, got a lot of stuff done that I needed to get done, and we're back at it. So hopefully we'll get some smelling of equipment in. Yeah, I got it. Figured all that out, and away we go. So first in tonight was Tony Close UK Reef. Tony, you said you have to work tonight, so catch us on the replay. So hi on the replay. Hope you had a good night working. Then Filipino Reefer came in. Hey, Benny, I hope you're doing well. And he had a question about UV, and there have been some answers to this in the chat. And I'll throw my 2 cents worth in, and that's basically, I don't see any reason to turn it off unless you need to, because you're dosing a specific live product such as pods or bacteria, and you have to give some time for them to settle into your system so that they're not still in the water column and getting taken out by the UV. That's the only time I ever turned mine off. Well, no, that's not true. Water changes. I also turned it off during water changes, but that was specifically because of how my sump was set up. I had to do that because the chamber that it pulled the water from was the return chamber, and it just didn't work if it kept running. So yeah, Diacanthus Reef. Hey, Diacanthus. He's also talking to Benny about his UV questions. You guys can probably all see. Let me see now. Oh yeah, thanks, Benny. Thanks for the reminder. Thumbs up when y'all enter. That'd be great. I'd really appreciate it. Apparently, YouTube will push out a live stream to recommendations if there are enough thumbs up right away. It kind of attracts the attention of the algorithm, and more people get to see it in the recommendations and come check it out. So that's always good. The more the merrier. Hey, the Herm14, nice to see you. Hello. Broke Reefman 45. Hey, Paul. I hope you're doing well. I've been seeing your posts on Instagram, and we did have 1 or 2 people mention your Arduino programming. So at some point, if you feel like coming on here and talking about that, I'm sure that'd be interesting. Okay, Dell's Reef. Hey, Dell's Reef. Camaro Kid, hello. Hey, Nano Joe. Nice to see you. We were talking a couple of weeks ago, and I think that was after the 8th, and then I didn't have a stream, or something happened, or maybe it was a Sunday. Anyway, glad you could make it. Hey, BC. Nice to see you. Salty Reef is here. Ooh, Hydros. Yeah. Yeah, me too. And later on when we get to that, I've done a lot of looking into it and thinking about it, and I'm pretty sure I know what I want to do with it. So that's a step in the right direction. Hey, One Golf Jones. Welcome. Marcus Aerolis 187. Internal for Ruby Reef. Oh, must be a question somebody's asking about. Hi, Waterhouse Jason. Hey, Terrence Lotion. Glad you could make it. Skinner JW is here. That's cool. Okay, I think that's everybody caught right up. What announcements do I have? That was really it. I just wanted you all to know that I'm sorry about missing last week, but it was worth doing because I got a lot of stuff done that I had not got to through the week. And yeah, sometimes you just need that little bit of a break. All right, let's bring in True Skills 710 if he's here. I saw a grill before. Oh, he's running back to the phone. Oh, now he's gone again. So he must be out on the deck or on the back there patio. There it is. What are you up to, Aaron? Oh, okay.
A beautiful slab of pork ribs.
Lovely.
Yep.
Oh, hey, Bone Goes Reef. Hello from the UK. Glad you could make it in here in the middle of the night. Awesome.
I put too much wood in there.
There's a lot of smoke.
Yeah, I put some
Right.
smoking chips, and they're like extremely small.
Oh, okay.
So I just threw a cluster in there, and well, needless to say, the cluster's on fire, but the wife's gonna love that because she loves charred meat. I can't
good.
say that I don't either. I mean, burnt ends are always a good thing.
Especially if the part that's burnt is fat. Yeah, that's what you want. The little crispies.
That's all that.
Yeah, the crispies.
This entire outside layer is fat.
My husband throws that stuff away, but I don't know.
Burnt ends.
It's got all the flavor, right?
Exactly.
Oh yeah. So so what have you been up to? Anything new with the tank?
Yeah, give me a second. It's good and not good at the same time.
And I did look at your videos that you sent with the really weird stuff that was happening with the screen, and I saw what you meant.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard from anybody else that has had that, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, it just randomly does it when Alex gets around the red lights.
Right. Oh, Broke Reef Man is saying had ribs for lunch today. Those are looking good.
All right. This is what we got. One, I had to move them.
Okay, because they got too big?
No, because of how the rock was shipped, they shifted in shipment. So how I had the rock placed in there wasn't allowing the Recordias to change or to skip off.
Oh, I see.
So I had to like completely move it. And now that it's in a better spot for the Recordia now, I mean, you can see the complete difference of what I was talking about like 2-3 streams ago. I mean, look at the size difference.
Yep.
And the right one was cheaper.
Yep. Cool.
The big mushroom, the purple mushrooms are getting huge.
Mm-hmm.
Ow, 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 ow. I have babies on my organ if my clown would get out of the way.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It's got babies on left and right. The Simocomo or whatever. Oh, little baby girl. Whatever that one is starting to encrust. This one's already made it down onto the rock.
Yeah.
I've got full encrust, like 3/4 the way down the frag plug. It's starting to extend out that way towards the rock.
Nice.
But the plate's getting bigger. He's accepting a lot of brine shrimp. Here is the problem.
The clam.
Yeah.
Oh, are you losing some of the mantle?
Something got to it.
Oh dear.
Its mantle has come back for this section on both sides.
Right. Oh, weird.
But it's still there on this one.
Yep.
But as you can see above my finger is the pullback from the mantle.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's still there. It's starting to coloring up. It hasn't opened up like it previous streams, but I think this is the most it's opened up in like 3 days.
Wow.
But other than that, yeah, just simple water changes.
Oh, cool.
The rock flower's getting huge.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
Can't wait to get another one.
Oh, hey, BC. BC has a question. What coral is featured in your intro video? That's my Duncan, my massive Duncan colony. And I can't remember, I did a short kind of video today of what the two stock tanks look like. And I'm going to try and show you guys later. And hopefully you'll be able to see it. It's getting huge, like really, really, really huge.
All right, I'm gonna kill Cam real quick, and then
Okay.
I've got to deal with the ribs and whatnot, but I can hear
Okie
you
doke.
guys perfectly fine.
Awesome.
I just got to make sure I get this stuff washed up so that way I can properly bring the stuff into the house and
Yep.
get it cooked completely good.
Yeah. Benny says he's on his way over.
Hey man, come on down. No alcohol though.
Okay. Oh, there's Davis Jew. Hey, Don. I hope you're doing well. 321 Reefer. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone.
321. Where's that from?
I don't honestly know.
Because I know 213 is LA.
When in doubt, blame the angel. Yeah, that's right. You have that coral beauty. You know, and
I
they're
mean, it could be, but over the past week, I saw like the same hermit crab on it like 3 or 4 times because it did have a couple random stray hairs on it of the algae. I guess it's bryopsis or whatnot, and it was on the outskirt of the clam, roughly in that area. So I don't know if the crab went for that and accidentally clipped the clam, or just the crab crawling up irritated the clam enough to where it may have damaged it.
Yeah, hard to say. Oh, T40. Hey, T40. I hope you're doing well, T.
Oh yeah, she's gonna love this.
Hey, Johnny Martinez. Hope you and all are reefing family out there, praying everyone's safe and protected. Back at you, Johnny.
Come here, baby.
Oh, it's Cape Canaveral. 321 Reefers in Cape Canaveral.
Florida. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not far from what is that place? Coral Castle?
I don't know. Worldwide Corals is in Florida, but that's about all I know about it.
Well, the Coral Castle that I'm speaking of, a very small Lithuanian dude, like he might have been 5'2", 5 foot, maybe, possibly. And he weighed something like 100 pounds. He was a stick. He wasn't no bigger than Audie Murphy. Okay. But apparently this dude moved like 50, 60-ton blocks by himself.
Oh boy.
If I remember correctly from what I've read up on it, he figured out how the Egyptians made the pyramids as they so-called claim it.
Wow.
Like one of the instances that they did, one of the delivery drivers would show up at 53-foot semi. It's got 3 rocks on it. He'd tell the driver to get out and go on the other side of the fence, like out on the street side. He told him to go away. And when he came back, he heard no heavy machinery. He heard no major thumping, banging, nothing like that. Dude said he didn't hear anything. And that little 100-pound man got all 3 blocks off of the back of that semi in 10 minutes.
Wow. Sounds like something we need to look up for urban legends. Coral Castle, you say?
It's either Coral Castle or... Oh, it's going to bug me now that I'm going to have to find it. But yeah, he was it's down there in... for the life of me, I can't remember it right now.
Oh, he said their area code goes with the Space Shuttle 321 launch. That's
Nice.
Cool. Hey, Alex G. I've got Taryn in the waiting room. I'm going to bring her in because she's got more clownfish. Hi, Taryn.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing really good.
Nice.
So these are just the little mochas, but I got a new little divider for this tank because I have just a couple little tiny clowns in here. So there's a little, I don't know if you can see them.
Oh, kind of bobbing behind the rock there?
There's a little divider and there's a little, oh, can you see him? He's a little thunder maroon. He's an anemone.
Oh yeah, I see him. He's mostly white.
Yeah, it's a thunder maroon, so he's white, and then he has like a little bit of maroon. But it's super tiny. It's just a baby, but
Cool.
but yeah, so these guys are doing good. They're growing good. Did you get any news on your tank?
No, still apparently still
Give me a second.
apparently still waiting on acrylic. That's the official story. But we are making progress in the room. I don't know if I can even show you this. I'm going to try and tilt my computer screen up and show you behind me.
Cindy, you just hit a major lag spike. That or I did. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think she might be frozen a little bit.
Oh, it didn't like that. I think I dislodged the Ethernet cable.
Yeah.
Anyway, we won't be doing that anymore. But we've been making progress on all the various little things that we have to do. I gotta say hi to a few more people before they scroll by. Yeah, Alex G. Hello, Alex G. T40. Does anybody know if they're having Reefapalooza this year in New York? According to ReefGrrl, he's 90% sure it's going to go ahead. I may be wrong on the percentage. He might have said 86. But because of the venue that they have, they're able to spread out a little bit more, is what he said. And so, yeah, I don't know if it's 100%, but he thinks there's a good chance it's going to happen. And as far as I know, the only one that's really been postponed a lot is California. So yeah. Aaron, people are saying never trust a crab. Hey, Chili Wells Reef. Oh, Alex is charging up his phone. Cool. Diacanthus, saw you up there earlier. Everybody saying hi. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so there is really no news on the tank, but I did get 2 lawnmower blennies and added one to the 150 and one to the 100. I have seen both of them, and I can see the evidence of their work. Because there are ridiculous amounts of algae in there. I'm in there every day for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, plucking out whatever I can get by hand. And I've got long tweezers. I'm trying to get some stuff off the bottom. It's just growing everywhere. Like, you know how little clumps of dirt might go in a certain place because of the way the flow is? Well, everywhere I have any of those, it's algae. So easy to get out, but there's lots of it. So hopefully the blennies will do the trick, and hopefully I won't kill them. And related to that, I realized once it started to be air conditioning season that the temperature of the water in the 2 bottom stock tanks where my reef is lower, which you expect, but a lot lower than the upper one where the temperature sensor is. So it was like 77.2 in that upper one, which is roughly between 77 and 78. I like to keep it, but it was down to 76.4 or 5 in the 150, and then down to 75.8 or 9 in the lower one. And I suspect that I had an issue with the fish because of temperature, because you always run into that problem with acclimating. You float the bags, then you do the acclimation, and of course you don't do the acclimation while they're floating in the bags. They come out, the temperature changes, and then you put them back in. And I gotta wonder if temperature had something to do with it, because it was much lower than I would like to keep it, and it was like down to 75.2, 75.4. You know, that's not good. So I made some adjustments, and we're now, the lowest temperature in the whole system is in the lower 100, where I have half of my reef, and it's 77.5. Then it goes to 78.6 or 7, or I can't remember the readings I took today, and it's actually 80 in the upper section, which is fine because there's like nothing in there. So anyway, that was kind of my exciting little revelation this week. It's always something. You think you're doing a good job, and it's always something.
Yeah.
It's just crazy, man. Hey, Egg Boy 64.
Did you find your Tomini tang?
Yeah, I did. And you know what? Maybe I'll
Sorry,
play
did you
this
find your
short.
Tomini tang?
Yes, I didn't find my powder or my naso tang though. I took all of the media out. I took all of the rocks out. I moved rocks. I did not see any sign of a deceased fish. No sign of a body, and it would be still soon enough that there would be some evidence, I think. And I mean, unless he jumped and flopped himself right underneath the concrete blocks that hold that thing up where I can't see him, I have no idea what happened, which kind of gives me hope because you know what happens. They can disappear for like months and then all of a sudden there they are. So yeah, it's too bad.
And beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Turf algae challenging me these past couple of months. Oh, turf algae is the worst, but you know what eats it? When I had that yellow tang, he ate it, Sparky, and I'm pretty sure the foxface will also eat it. Marcus Aerolis, are the stock tanks on concrete floors? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Icy freeze too. Yeah, sorry guys. That was me messing around with my computer. I wanted to show you the light canopy above my head. That's where I'm sitting in the room. Like the lights are like right up there. And because the inside of the canopy is up at the ceiling, you could see where I had all the wires and stuff. And my husband organized them really neatly, but there's a lot of them and it looks really complicated. And when you walk in the room, well, at least me, my eye went right to all the wires every single time. So I came up with a way to cover them up. And it's kind of different, you know, I don't know that anybody's done this before because usually people's canopies are low enough that you can't look up inside. And in this case, I got something just a little bit of out of the box thinking to fix that up. So I'll have a video on that when I do the video on how we put the lights up and what's involved. Did you have them running in the dead of winter with lower temps? No, in the winter time, it was rather warm down there, but with air conditioning season, it's gotten cool. We've shut all of the vents that go into the area. But I'm pretty sure because of the way our house is, the staircase is right in the middle and cold air drops and it's always colder downstairs. So, you know, we're trying not to let it get too cold, but it's temporary because the two tanks that are open won't necessarily be open once I have my display tank because they won't have corals in and I won't need to put light on them. And my plan is to have lids on those tanks. And that not only preserves heat, but it also helps with evaporation. And of course, the tank being upstairs here is going to be a challenge because the whole sump down there, I'm sure, is going to have to run warmer in order that when the water travels up here, this up here stays at a consistent temperature. So it's something we have to figure out, you know, by trial and error and just see what we have to do to make it work. Oh, the Herm's got a question. Did you resolve the issue with the missing controller unit? They send you the, yes, they did. And here it is. Look. Well, that's the back. There it is right there.
Hey, Cindy.
And look. Hey, Aaron.
Sorry, I'll wait until you're finished.
No. I just want to show everybody the box. It's sealed. I have not cut the tape. So we're going to do that tonight. And I'm going to smell it and tell you what it smells like.
It's got that new smell.
So what happened was apparently the starter kit that starts with like the Hydros 4 plus a couple things. That's what I ordered. And when the order was sent to my retailer, they were missing. Now, how did this go? They sent them just the controller and not the rest of that package, the starter pack. So then they sent just the starter packs without the controller in the box. And when I ordered mine, they sent me just the starter pack without the controller in the box. They did not put, whoever it was forgot to put the controller in the box. So they sent it to me right away. And yeah, they didn't even, as soon as I emailed him, he said, oh, geez, you know, we'll get that to you right away. And then he says, we figured out what happened. So to me, he said right away, we'll make sure you get it. Instead of saying, well, let me look into it, he just said, no, we'll get it to you. Then he looked into it and found out what happened. So, I mean, I appreciate the trust level of the guys, you know, saying, oh yeah, that's, you know, thanks for letting us know, we're going to send it. Because, you know, a lot of times you don't get that from some vendors. They just take a week to look at it and then they go, oh yeah, you're right. But he was just on it right away. So that's Aquarium Depot, and I really appreciate the customer service there.
Oh, I love
Um,
Aquarium Depot.
Yeah. Alex, did you open the box? Make sure it's in there. Might be a brick or a rock. I guess we're going to find out tonight, aren't we? It doesn't smell like a brick.
All right. Hey, I have to run to the store real quick. I'm gonna jump string, but I will be back in probably about 10 minutes.
Okie doke. See you in a bit.
All right.
Be right back. Late for dinner. Oh, Benny's going for dinner. Alex is betting it's a brick in there. Yeah, right. As if. So Blenny's temperature. Yeah. So what else did I have to tell you guys? Oh, I just have a bunch of videos coming up I've been working on this week, trying to assemble footage and things like that, like what we had to do to our house when it was built to allow for the aquarium. If you ever go to, if you're ever looking for a house where you can have a big aquarium, the kinds of stuff that we had to do to make sure ours was going to be safe in here. I'm going to update you on the sump, and I was going to show you that video too. Let me see, how do I do that? Share screen. So this is video that I just took a couple hours ago. It's 2 minutes, I think. Yeah. Let's see this. There we go. This is the 150. All the flow's off. You can see there's a molly there. And this goes back to your question about my Tomini tang, Taryn, because you'll see him cruising through there. Look at all that algae. It's awful. It's just like everywhere.
Okay.
So the corals are doing okay. You know, some of them are doing. There's the Duncan right in the middle. Some of them are doing pretty well, but
Yeah, they look good.
oh, here he comes, big guy, cruising through. And he goes behind the rocks, and then he'll come out again. Yeah, he's nice and fat.
Oh, there he is. Oh, he's beautiful.
Yeah. And then this is the 100.
Yeah, I can't believe he was eating when he was hiding.
Yeah. This is the tank I'm going to be using for water changes. So once the reel system is running, it'll just be empty with a lid on it. And when I go to do a water change, I'll drain this tank and pump water back in. Yeah, so look, there's the fox coral. So they're doing...
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and that was one of the things we wanted to incorporate. There's Buster. Okay, Buster looks awful, but that's because the green wrasse used to flip him upside down. He was just about dead, and he's coming back. So I'm really happy about that. Yeah. The algae looks just like my temp tank. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Just a lone red mushroom frag. My maze brain, Pectinia. My bounce mushroom, I thought I killed it. It's finally getting bubbles again. It's one of those sun-kissed bounce. And there's the hammer coral that no one ever saw in the other tank because of where it was. And that edge is getting stung by the hammer. The scolie is growing because I keep feeding it. That's just a neon plating Monty. Is it starting over again? No, I think that's almost it. And the scolie. Yeah, so It is. There we go. Oh, did I lose Taryn? I think Taryn was having a bit of a delay in her internet. So anyway, that's how things look right now, and I'm just hanging on. I feel like any of the acropora that I had are just barely doing okay, and I'm doing my best to keep them going. I didn't lose you guys, did I? No, my net cable's still plugged in. Okay. So I think I might wait until Alex comes in and open the box, because maybe Alex has new equipment too. You never know, right? I also have a picture of my Cinerina that I call my, oh, there's Taryn. There we go. Hey, Taryn.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. My internet just froze and then I was gone. And I'm back now.
Well, that's a tilefish.
Yeah, this is so I got these guys a couple weeks ago. It's supposed to be an aptasia eating filefish.
Yeah, or
He's
filefish, yeah.
actually pretty big. He's really this is just I have them in an observation tank just because they're gonna go upstairs in my bio cube, but I want to make sure that there's nothing wrong with them just because I don't want to risk anything bringing to my clowns. But
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm not doing any medication or anything. I'm just doing like observation. I think it's 72 days that is the maximum for ick that is their lifestyle. So I mean life cycle, not lifestyle,
Yeah.
but no, he's doing good. I did actually bring some aptasia down here because I had some on like a little piece of keto, but
Yeah.
he's yet to eat it. So I don't know if he's going to eat aptasia, but I mean he's eating mysis and everything else, but he's kind of cool. Have you ever had one, Cindy?
I've never had one. I've always used peppermint shrimp for aptasia. Where did my mouse go now? And always had really good luck with those, because I had heard that filefish. No, I keep thinking tilefish, but this is a filefish. They can nip at corals, and I think that's why that it's on my list of kind of the last resort. You know, if things get really bad, and it's a matter of you're going to lose your coral one way or another, so you may as well get something that will eat it, right? Yeah. Ooh, Alex says he might have a box to open. 10 by 15. Marcus Arrows is trying to behave today. Okay. And we lost Sharon again. I'll show you guys the picture of my Cinerina that I call the plaid Cinerina. And this thing is just beautiful. And this is only half of it. It is getting these gold streaks in it. And it's kind of, it's always been kind of a U shape. So what you're seeing is one half of that U shape that's visible from above. Oh, there's Taryn again. There you are.
Sorry.
It's okay. That happens, right?
They disappeared. I might have to go into another room. It must be this room, but I just wanted to show you this guy. And then I
Cool.
actually got a Midas Blenny too, but he's like hanging out on top of the wave maker. You probably can't see him. He swims.
I saw your
like
Insta.
yeah, he's so beautiful. He swims, but like as soon as I come into the room, like he'll be swimming, I can see him. And then as soon as I come in here, he like hides. So I was like, okay, like I'm gonna have to take a video from outside of the room. But yeah, he's gonna go. I've been wanting one for a while.
They're gorgeous. Mine used to dive into his blenny and then in his barnacle and then just peek out. It was always so cool. Yeah. Is that filefish? Yeah, filefish. Is it skinny?
It looks like a leaf. Like I don't kind of, I guess, but I don't.
Yeah.
This is my first one. Like at first I was kind of worried about like his eye looks cloudy in certain light, but
Mm-hmm,
then I read that that's common with them. So,
mm-hmm.
because at first, when I first got him, I was like, his eyes looked fine, but I also didn't have the lights on. He
Mm-hmm.
eats a lot, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
That's
I
probably
don't know
just
if that's
his
the way he kind of
natural.
just floats around
Yeah, it's
body.
probably just his natural body shape to be like that. I just wondered. I've never had one.
At first, I didn't know if he was even alive. He just like floated for the first like he would just go with the current. And I was like, is he still alive? And then he would move his eyeball, but now he's like more active. But yeah, he's pretty interesting, that's for sure. Like
Yeah,
he
they
just
are.
floats. He's like a leaf.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're cool. Really cool fish. ReefGrrl, I did get rid of all that hair algae. I do see some small area with red algae, or could that be coralline? Your corals are awesome. Oh, thanks, Johnny. Hey, multiple aquariums. How's it going with you? Yeah, you know what? I think what that is we all look at our tanks, and I think because mine is such a temporary thing, I have very low expectations of it because I think I'm trying to prepare myself mentally if I have problems and the stuff doesn't survive. And I just keep thinking after going through 9 months with the temporary reef tank, everything just jammed into that 90 and how it went so well, other than what happened with the fish. I just keep feeling like I'm living on borrowed time, that one of these days it's going to happen and it's just going to be like dominoes. But I'm staying on top of it. I'm really doing my best to make sure that I'm careful with things and, don't do anything rash like this algae. I'm so tempted to dose it with fluconazole because I know that stuff works. But on the other hand, I want to just wait and see if I can get rid of it using just the fish, the tang, the two blennies, and I don't know, now that I figured out the temperature thing, if that was the problem, maybe try another blonde nasal. I don't know. Worst case scenario, the other one's in there and I end up with two. Oh, hey, reefing with O.
They're
Yeah, you know what I
beautiful.
mean? Yeah. Reefing with O says, is Taryn in a dark room developing photos?
No, I was just moving from one room to another.
Yeah. Well, and Alex
Although
G
I
is
would like to
saying,
do that. I do like doing photography.
yeah, when I was in college, I learned how to develop photos because back then, when I was studying map making, and back then maps were created on printing presses with not offset lithography, with lithography that was can't remember the name for it now. You'd think I'd remember, but it's basically black and white and lines. And so we had to learn how to develop photographs and all that kind of stuff in the dark. It was a lot of fun. It was really
Yeah, that's
cool.
awesome.
Alex, algae is your friend. Okay. Yeah, I can go with that.
We'll go
It
with
looks
that.
so it looks so
So is
pretty.
cyano, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, Broke Reef Med 45. So I got some Palithoa that looked really cool, and as others warned me about them, they're spreading fast. How to remove them without releasing toxins? Yeah, that's the $1 million question. When had those teal green polyps, I don't know whether they were zoanthids or pallies. I'm thinking they were pallies. I took out the rock that they were on and I left it in the garage for months and I thought that would do it. And then when I used a wire brush to clean the rock, because it was a beautiful rock, that's when I got a dose of whatever it was that got released because of the dead stuff on there. I was running it underwater, using a wire brush, and there was dust and I breathed it in. And I really think that's what happened, that there was still some trace of whatever that was. So, I mean, if you remove the rock they're on, I would kiss the rock goodbye. Everybody said, "Oh, don't use the rock, just get rid of it." And I thought, "Well, no, I can get it clean." Yeah, no, I should have just got rid of it because I don't think there's any way to really safely get that stuff off there. Are you concerned that they are a type that is, has potential. I know there's certain types that have more potential than others, and it is usually the fast growing ones that seem to be the more likely to be a problem. But if you have them on a rock that you can get out of there, I would take them out of there. Or if you have other corals on the same rocks, try and get at least frags of the other corals and just remove it. It's if it's embedded in your aquascape, I really don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Yeah.
That's one thing I've never added yet. I've always been like, I know there's only certain types that have the toxin,
Yeah.
but I've never added any bellies or zoas yet. But
yeah, I think you're pretty safe with the ones that are like rastas and utter chaos. Like there's certain
the
kinds.
bright ones.
I think the really brightly multicolored ones seem to me to be the ones that, like, contrary to what they say in nature, usually it's the really brightly colored things that are poisonous, and that's how other creatures tell, right, that they're poisonous. But I don't know. I feel like with pallies, a lot of them that have problems are green or largely green.
Yeah, like the green or brownish color. Like that's what I read. That's what I researched. But who knows? Maybe in the future.
Diacanthus says, I always remove the zoas with the rock when I frag, but if you don't have them on an isolated rock, it's not always possible. I also frag with a colony inside a bowl of water. Yeah. Yeah, I had water running, but I had goggles, I had gloves. I thought I was covered, but it was the dust that came up from the part I was scrubbing that was out of the water. Because you know how you lift it up and you start scrubbing and you might get into a dry area without realizing. My nose started to burn, my nostrils, and it was getting really uncomfortable. And I just thought, oh, damn, I should have worn a mask. So I went and I got a mask and I put it on. And it started getting worse and worse, and I couldn't finish because I was starting to feel sick. And yeah, I did the video about it. It was not good. Alex says, no easy answer.
Yeah, I watched the video.
Yeah, it was just, I was so mad at myself because by then I'd been in the hobby for like maybe 5 years, and I thought by that point I would have, I mean, the gloves and the goggles, right? But I never even thought of breathing it in. No easy answer. Outside, put it in a bucket or trash can and bleach it until it's all dissolved. I have that same issue with some rocks right now. Ooh. Yeah. Oh, there's Alex. Alex peeking over top of the camera. Hello.
Hello.
Heard some horror stories about people getting sick from them. How are you?
Tired.
Tired? Have you got water in that secondary sump yet? If not, why not? I'm kidding. You're frozen. I was going to use a scalpel and try and lift it from the rock. Yeah. I don't know, like you're talking about working in the tank with a scalpel and trying to lift it up? Because if you can get that rock out of the tank, there's half the battle right there.
Well, from what I've heard with that stuff, it's generally it's when it aerosolizes that it's when it's a problem. Yeah. That's why people that try to, literally boil rocks and stuff, that's like a horrible idea because it aerosolizes it. So that's why I was kind of thinking if you can, the other way to get them off possibly is to kind of grow them off. So like my old tank, I had the Nirvanas got real bad. And what I did is I just started throwing rubble rock, like little tiny rubble rocks right on top of them. And after a week or two, they jump off the main rock and onto the rubble. And then you'd still have to cut them where they separated, or I'd just tear them. But it was all underwater, and I always more or less kept them submerged. So.
Yeah, he says it's in a bucket. Diacanthus says, I wouldn't do it inside the display. Do that in a bowl of water. Yeah, aerosolization and squirting. Well, as far as the squirting goes, I know just from moving Recordias and Yumas, like the bigger Recordias around, when those things get puffed up with water, you don't realize how much water they hold until you pull them out of the water to move the rock. And all of a sudden they deflate and the water just jets everywhere. It's crazy. And I learned that with the green hairy mushrooms that the clownfish are living in right now. And I have to move that whole rock structure. I'm unable to lift it. My husband's going to have to lift it out of there, but we're going to be doing that on Monday this week and get Mollywood back home. And I'm not looking forward to it. I'm hoping to make room for that whole structure where all the other stuff is, because maybe I can take some of the corals that are scattered around the bottom and move them into Mollywood and then put that big piece of rock in there. But the problem is it's covered with green hairy mushrooms, and I don't, as beautiful as they are, I don't want them. They're too invasive. So yeah, so Paul, Broke Reef Man, if you've already got it in a bucket, I guess it depends on, how you feel about getting rid of the rock altogether. Whether you want to introduce it back, because it doesn't seem to matter how long you leave it. There'll be residue on there, dead or alive. Okay, I'm going to take precautions and try to remove them. Good luck with that. I hope it goes well. Get video. Like Alex didn't get video of when he opened the sand. Unless he did and he's just holding out on
That's
us.
okay. There's like another 10 buckets of it. So I'll eventually have that.
Cool. So now we've got O in the chat. So I'm sure he's listening or watching. I'm going to get out my knifing. And I can't even talk. My knife. See, my knife. And my box right here. The hydros. There she is. Cool. All right, and I'm going to cut open the top. Oh, maybe do it on camera. I'm no good at this. There we go. And open the box. Looks suspiciously like a brick. Here it is. I don't have enough room on this table. You might notice we're back in the fish room. So my apologies if the sound quality is a little echoey, because there's tile floor in here, and it's okay. Comes in a nice little bubble wrap sleeve. Look at the pretty colors. Yeah, it smells like bubble wrap. Glue and plastic. And there it is. Look, all the colors. Okay, I'm losing pieces of it already. It does smell a little bit like a solvent. Right here. But other than that, relatively inert. Like, yeah, like just a little, like nail polish remover, like acetone maybe.
Ah.
It's really, it feels like it's well made, but it's not super, super heavy. And it has holes in the bottom and holes in the top, so you can mount it somewhere. Pretty nice, actually. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this thing going so that I can find out what my pH is. I'll find that thing that just fell off wherever it went. Should get the cat in here. He'll probably find it. So anyway, that's good. And nothing else in the box. Just like O said, or like ReefGrrl said, there are no instructions. Oh, there it is. I see it. Okay. Yeah, just a yellow cap fell off. So after I put out my video about the radiant heating system, Blue Carbon Reefing, John had a comment that made me think that I had thought about. Oh, we lost Taryn again. Thanks for coming by, Taryn. I love seeing your little clownfish. Cool. Okay. And he commented because I triggered the heating system by pulling the sensor out of the water, because of course the room air is lower and it would think it needed to turn on. So his comment was, what if the sensor pulled out accidentally and the heating system stayed on? What was the risk there? So I'm trying to remember what there is about the inkbird that allows it to not overheat. And I think it's that variance, like the 0.2 degrees. But it would try to keep getting back up, and it wouldn't stop until it got to within that 0.2 degrees. So I'm assuming that it would be whatever the maximum temperature was we had set in the water heater, minus a factor of reduction for the fact that it's radiant heating. It would probably still get into the 90s if it ever happened. And so I thought that's something I'm going to use this hydros for, is as a secondary thing, where if I'll get it to tell me if the temperature ever gets above, like, call it 82, to let me know, so that and then the next step would be to decide whether to use it to turn off the inkbird if that ever happened. Like, that would be the ultimate protection if I wasn't home, to have it set up that way.
So mine's set up in the apex is the apex is the high temp alarm, and if there's a high temp, it'll shut the power off to the outlet controlling the recirculating pump and the temp controller.
Yep. Yeah. So I can still pretty much use everything the way I have it set up now, with the difference being that the inkbird would be plugged into the hydros, so that it would control the on-off of the heater. And if the temperature ever got above whatever I decide is the maximum I'm willing to risk, 81, let's say, then it would just shut it off. And then, of course, I'd have to attend to it, because if it just shut off, that wouldn't be good if I was away for however long and it didn't work at all. So I have to work that out as to how that actually can function before I'd have to do something about it.
Yeah, and I think the way I'd look at it is, if a high temperature occurs, it shuts it off. But if it drops below that high temperature, it would re-energize the inkbird.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to think the inkbird.
That's how you get that redundancy in the heating controller.
Yeah.
And if it goes too low, well, that's a problem, but
not as bad a problem as too high.
Yeah, I think you get a little bit more time with that.
Yeah. Look at Johnny. Oh my God, look what O started. Now we must smell all our new supplies. It's true, they do have a smell. And like I said, this hydros out of the box has a very faint odor of nail polish remover, acetone. Golf Jones, sorry I had to step away and pause the stream, not where you're at, but I'm looking at your algae, wondering if, actually what I did with the hydrogen peroxide was I took a pipette full, I stuck it under the water, and I squirted it into certain areas of the algae where it was really thick, because I wanted to see if it made a difference, and it did. It made it thinner in that area, and I was able to pull it out. So it's just a matter of me deciding how much I could get away with dosing that way, whether it would work well enough to get it down to the point where the tang and the other fish could take care of it, and how much is too much. Oh, Alex has got a dental tool that's usually used for opening boxes.
What? Well, hold on a second. This is some Canadian lore I've never heard of before. Dental tools to open boxes.
Well, I had to have a word with my husband, because he was using my 30-year-old silver letter opener from Scotland, handmade artisan, to ram through the tape on Amazon boxes to take them apart to put them in the recycling when we have a perfectly serviceable brass cheapie that would do the same job without wrecking my heirloom Scottish thing. We just use whatever's sharp and handy. Golf Jones. Oh, Broke Reef Man's looking at clowns. Deep Reef. Hey, Deep Reef. What's your dosage for hydrogen peroxide? I've just become a believer. Yeah. I have never dosed hydrogen peroxide, but I have used it to control algae on frags and on rocks that I can remove from the aquarium. I get a pipette and I drip it all over the algae area and then set it back in, and it does work. But that's not the same as dosing. Look at that. Oh, those are the the dental tool to scrape off the nirvanas. Oh man, you've got crevices in that rock too.
No, these aren't nirvanas. These are oh, what the heck? My clove polyp. They're getting a little too close to my xenia, and I'd like my xenia to not have those there.
Do those put out long runners?
Over time, I'm gonna nuke this little aptasia right here too.
Oh boy. Look, now you just made 200 of them.
That's all right. I'm gonna get some Bergia in here eventually to deal with that problem.
Yep.
The xenia is just looking a little unhappy today, but the stereo FD is starting to open up a little bit more. It's been really closed up. I've been having to turn the lights back down, and whew, that thing has gotten big.
Huh.
This is my pulsing sinularia.
Oh my goodness.
So you see it'll close up, and then they can't get real close to it, but the polyps will pulse on it when it's opening back up.
That is cool.
So yeah, a few things are coming back. Like, the elk's still pretty high in here, so I'm just letting everybody just kind of chill out for a bit.
Yep.
Not trying to do anything major as far as changes go.
Yeah, it's hard to do that, eh? You have to just kind of let everything adjust and see where it goes.
Exactly. And that's why I've been like, I'm just going to let it go. The clownfish are happy, though.
Yep. Cool. Deep Reef ordered a Sochting oxidator for slow dosing hydrogen peroxide. Oh, I'm gonna have to look that up. Is Sochting, is that a brand name or is it an autocorrect thing?
Don't know on that one.
Egg Boy says he scraped off all the green pallies off a rock and got pretty sick. Yeah. Oh yeah, the day before the last Kitchener Coral show. I think I remember you saying you weren't feeling well at that time. Yeah, that is it's not a good scene. Wear eye protection. Yep. 5 to 8 mils, 3% per 50 liters. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm always willing to try something like that because hydrogen peroxide, when it degrades, just turns into water. So it's when it is actually in contact with organics that it oxidizes. So, I don't know. I have to look into that. 13.213 gallons for the non-metrics. Okay. Yeah, the only other thing about hydrogen peroxide is it can get pricey depending on how much you need and where you buy it, I guess. How's the bubble coral doing?
Well, you could see kind of on the top there where it's had some loss. It's been opened up and it's real heavy. I moved it a little bit more into the middle where there's a little bit less flow, and it's gotten real happy and open here. So just gonna have to give it time, you know. If it's
Yeah.
sometimes they once they start down this path, there's nothing you could really do. And
I just saw the hawkfish.
oh yeah, he's still hanging out with his friends.
Yeah, the thing with bubble corals, I'm sure I almost lost Lucy, the giant one, because the green wrasse kept spitting sand on top of it, and it had no way to get rid of it. And so now what's left of it is recovering and has dropped a baby, and they're both on the same old skeleton. And I'm really, really hoping I can nurture it along so that it starts growing again. It's looking good. It opens, it closes, it puts out the little feeder tentacles. So I guess it's like you say, time will tell. That's all you can really do is give it time.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say everything seems like it's looking pretty good. Things are bouncing back. The fact that all my branching euphyllias aren't getting flipped around like 8 times a day by the Spanish hog is kind of nice.
They probably appreciate it and they're happy now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we go. Diacanthus looked it up for us, or he already knew maybe. He or she. Sorting oxidator. Use a silver ceramic pellet to split hydrogen peroxide. The displaced gas then pushes the hydrogen peroxide out a small diameter pinhole at the base into the tank. Continuous H2O2. Okay, so does this thing actually create hydrogen peroxide? To split hydrogen peroxide. So is it source water or is it source hydrogen peroxide? I'll have to look into this.
Never read about it.
No, I've never seen it. I've never heard of it before. I think it sounds pretty awesome. Sounds like having a nuclear reactor in your tank. Marcus Aerolis has got 4 gallons of 7% pretty cheap on Amazon for well water treatment. Yeah, come to think of it, our daughter, their property has a well, and they have a big vat of the 30% stuff in their basement for their water treatment system. And all they know about it is the plumber has said, never touch it. Do not touch it. Only let a professional touch it. So, oh. When I rescaped, I got palitox in my eyes. Look for my, oh, Alex has a box. Diacanthus already knew. That's cool. Ooh, had to go to the eye doctor. He said it was like a chemical burn. Yeah, I can believe it. Catalytic decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. It reacts with the trace metals. Okay, I'm gonna have to read up on that. Okay, so you got the screen. Let's do you full screen.
All right.
We want to know what the subtle bass notes are. Okay.
So we're in a box, but can you guess what's in the box?
Another box?
There's a possibility of that.
And look, you're using scissors.
Yeah, they're mine. I got a new pair because I broke the old one.
Do you remember when Billy Pipes put out a video once using a samurai sword to do an unboxing?
I don't know if I saw that one.
Because the next unboxing I did, I used an electric carving knife to open up the box. And I'm thinking if I ever get ReefGrrl merch, it's going to be some really wild tool to use to open up a box.
So I got 4 things in this box.
Ooh, okay. And I bet it smells like PVC.
Yeah, it does.
And what's this for?
These are for my interconnect plumbing.
Okay.
So, but they're actual Schedule 40 4-inch, which this local store normally does not stock. So,
Oh boy.
I ordered them online, and so I got those. And this is kind of funny. And I got a 4-inch union.
Of course, as you would.
I'm curious to see this one. Okay, it's got a nice O-ring in it.
Oh yeah.
Big guy will use this one on my interconnect. This is real Schedule 40 union too, so that's a good thing. And then the other one, they didn't have the same type as that one, so they sent me an alternate, which is this thing.
Oh man. You're going to need a trestle just to hold that up. Depending where you put it, I guess.
Well, it's got the O-ring in it, so that's the important thing. So, oh, that's hilarious.
Can you buy that size O-ring? I'm assuming you could. I'm assuming you could buy an O-ring that size as a part, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted 2 4-inchers for my drains, so yeah. I got a phone call about this because they were like, just so you know, the alternate's really big, and I'm like, okay. Well,
you still need it. You still need it. So your interconnect, what is this going inter between?
So that I can show everybody that. So
there's that plastic
background. 4-inch bulkhead here.
Right.
And then
I remember those 99-cent clearance. Yeah.
I wish. And then we got the secondary sump here, so the other one's going to go right in here.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So I need to get my other bulkhead in, the 2 male flanges to go inside, and then I'll have a union in the middle too, so that if I have to service it, I can.
Yep.
So,
cool.
Yeah, that's going to probably be tomorrow's project. But
yep.
I do have this all pretty much ready to go.
Wow. And so the next steps are going to be like you had with your 400 and your 700, except it doesn't have a glass side on it?
Yep. I just got to drill the bulkhead hole, and I'm going to rough all that plumbing in first.
Yep.
And then once I have the hole, I'll go ahead and I'll get this squared away, which I got one more unboxing.
Cool. Okay. So Diacanthus says this is a sorting oxygenator. You add hydrogen peroxide to the reactor, then it splits off oxygen, and the displacement is what's pushed out the H2O2. It's scalable, more pellets, higher dose rate. Oh, I wonder. I live in Canada. We apparently have resources. Oh, so there you go. You're going to be ready.
Yep, that's the pond liner for this tank.
Yep.
So
cool. And you're an expert now because of how many you've done.
This will be, well, technically with folding, it's only number 3, but technically I've done this like 5 times now with the temp tank. So
yeah.
But yep, we gotta do some silicone filling on this. Get the plumbing in. I've already got my cross braces roughed out to go in here, and then once that's done, I'll get the plumbing in, get that fitted, and then probably get it. I don't know if I'm going to actually glue it together right away. I might wait until it's all on the bulkhead and it's all square the way it needs to be, because I'll have to make a
I'll have to make a plumbing trestle to support
Yeah.
it.
Just for that union.
Well, I'm going to use the thinner one over here, and then I'm going to make a step over on it, and
Right.
so that I can't easily kick it or
Yeah.
snap it, because it's a pretty long stretch to get over here.
Yeah.
I'm going to do one more thing too, because I couldn't do it with the other sump, but I'm going to drill a hole on this somewhere at the top here, and I'm going to make an emergency overflow bulkhead.
Mm-hmm.
So if it does start to overflow this tank, because they're about they're level.
Yeah.
If it does start to overflow, I'm going to have it go into my floor drain here and just pump,
Yeah.
hopefully it won't allow it to get on the floor.
Yeah. We talked about putting an emergency overflow on the final 100. And part of what we talked about was not losing the water. So if anything should happen where because that's the only part of the whole thing that doesn't have an emergency on it, is that final 100. So we figured if we could set up, maybe a 30-gallon container on the outside to catch the water if it should ever overflow, then we wouldn't lose all that water, because it theoretically it should only be a certain amount depending on the settlement of the whole system, how it works. We won't know till we get the tank how this all actually is going to work, but we did think about that just in case, because you never know. We do have the diversion, and if something were to happen where I was doing a water change and I got distracted and the water's being diverted and something else came on and it started to overflow, I'd really hate to lose the water out of the system, just in case it could easily be corrected by putting the water. You know what I mean? It's just one of those what if things, right? That you don't ever want your pumps to run dry and all this kind of thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this.
Yeah, I think your finger might be over your mic. Hey, Calypso's Reefs. Johnny Martinez. Hey, Alex G. Will we be miles of plumbing again? LOL on those male adapters. Use 3 to 4 wraps of Teflon, Vaseline on O-rings. Yep, Johnny was a...
No Teflon tape here. It's going to be silicone. I use silicone on them to seal them up. It works. For me, it works way better.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Well, that's good. And so what does the pond liner smell like? I guess we never did that.
It smells like rubber.
Rubber. Okay. Well, that's good. Rather than whatever that horrible stuff is that's vinyl. That
it's
you
heavy
can't...
too, so picking it up is not going to be easy. But yeah, they don't actually have much of a smell, surprisingly, since they're fish and animal safe.
Yeah. The guys in the chat are all talking about using this soaked ink oxygenator and 35% food grade peroxide. And Marcus Aerolis says, if you're not comfortable handling chemicals, don't go over 10%. It can burn you. I've had 50% with a drop of sulfuric acid. Just playing around, it will light paper on fire. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, some of that stuff could be. You gotta be really careful with chemicals when you start. It's not just the handling of them, but it's what does it react with?
Yeah.
It's some.
Yeah.
There's some things, and I've never really messed around with hydrogen peroxide at high levels, but
yeah, no, me neither. 3%. And when I'm mixing up my citric acid to clean stuff, which, by the way, let me tell you, I'm a total convert from vinegar now, completely. After the stuff I've cleaned up in the last couple of weeks, it comes out acrylic comes out looking like brand new. Frag racks, they used to always have this green sort of crunchy coating on that you couldn't get off, comes completely off with citric acid. But anyway, I never pour the citric acid in and then add the water. And I don't know if it matters with citric acid, but I know it sure does with some chemicals. You really have to read the instructions. Yeah. Yeah. Who wants to have a serious lifelong injury because of your hobby. You know, not me, for sure.
Yeah, and it's sadly like with a lot of with chemicals and stuff. I mean, sometimes it's not instantaneous. It takes time, and it could be time that you really need to be getting help if you're not careful. So
well, even things like the liquid carbonate, Chem Reef carbonate stuff that I use, super concentrated stuff, is caustic. You know, so you just have to be so aware of that. And that's why I always used to flip out when my grandson was in the fish room pulling hoses. You know, and I'd say to my daughter, like, that stuff is caustic, and I'd have everything pushed way back with stuff in front of it. And, you know, if they let him in the room, the first thing he gravitates towards is those hoses, and he wants to pull them all out. And it's, you know, not to be trifled with at any level. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
Hey, Chimp the Reefer. Yeah, I'm going to have to read the replay chat later to get all the details on what they're talking about with hydrogen peroxide. That looks really spiffy, Alex.
What's that? The sump?
Yeah. And so if you, I remember I did ask you what function this served, and it's largely extra water, but is it space for any reactors or whatever you might want to run?
So the plan kind of is with this, a lot of it's extra water volume.
Yeah.
So it's going to have the return pumps in it for the 400 and the main.
Okay.
And then I do have an electrical drop, so I'm probably going to put a board up so that I can mount stuff to over here. Yeah. And then actually on this side, I'm thinking that it'll be a little high, but I might make this kind of like a bench and put some like outdoor cushions on it so I could sit here and watch the 400.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
And then I'm probably going to put some rock in here and make it kind of just a dark refugium area as well. But when the 4-inch comes out of here, when the 4-inch line gets into here, I'm going to 90 it off and just run an extra amount of line to like somewhere in here. So it'll force the water to churn up here and then flow back towards the returns.
Yeah.
On top, though, I'm probably going to put another UV sterilizer on the system and have a second one.
Right.
So, because the 80 watts doing good now, but I'd like to have more capacity with the main display. So, going to put a second one on, which I'll still technically be under, but I think it's going to be worth it.
Well, I mean, if you're, I guess technically under in terms of water volume, but perhaps not in terms of bioload.
Well, and you know, it's all dependent on how you're trying to use it, and I'm not trying to use it specifically for just dealing with pathogens. That's not the main purpose of it for me. It's more to do water clarification and break down organic chemicals in the water.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we kind of did that with the 150. We took the pipe that comes down from the shallow 50, and instead of dropping it right in the middle of the tank, we curved it towards back around and underneath, so the water would be forced to flow back there, and it wouldn't become a stagnant area and then come back and get drawn up to the exit. But I mean that we had to put power heads in the front because, of course, the front would become the stagnant area, but that was less of a problem than trying to get around the back and do something back there. So it's something that, I mean, we really had to think when we were putting these stock tanks together, is you don't want the water to exit the tank too close to where it enters the tank, because then you just end up with poor flow and poor water quality. It has to really circulate everywhere. So you're talking about, running that pipe up to the front so that it's forced to flow through
Yep.
the full length of the thing. It's something that you don't know, that never occurred to us at first until we started looking at the layout of everything and the path of the water, right? And the last thing I want is any stagnant water, or anywhere that the water quality can deteriorate, or it can collect detritus and just become a bit of a toxic zone, because that stuff can creep up on you if you don't notice it right away.
Exactly, and that's why I wanted to. I'm going to put that in because it's a pretty passive thing to do, and it shouldn't impact anything. And because that sump is basically like their exact same height,
Mm-hmm.
even if water shuts off, they should auto level each other as well.
Yeah.
Like there'll probably be a little dip in the water height on this one just because of the returns.
Mm-hmm.
But it shouldn't be off by much. So, if anything, I'll be interested to see how the ATO handles that. Just because it's not going to just be the making up the height of the water in here. It's going to have to get it in there as well.
Yeah. That's another interesting problem. BC is saying the thread tape is designed to take up the thread offset in the pipe thread cutting tolerances. If you're using silicone as in the glue, you might never get the piping back apart. Doc BC.
And so standard silicone doesn't it does not adhere to PVC.
Yeah.
And so it'll still fill the same function as a Teflon tape or Teflon paste. And it breaks apart real easy. It just forms a much better seal. And I kind of learned that from some other folks that they use it in they use it in larger scale stuff for aquariums and have been successful. Because that's kind of the reason I went to it, is just because it's worked a lot better than Teflon has. The tape I've always had more issues with, and then the other problem too with like the pastes is they break off into really tiny parts into aquariums, and they're almost impossible to get out.
My husband and I had long discussions about silicone not being an adhesive. It's a sealant. And we've really avoided the use of the Teflon tape just because there, like you said, there's bits and pieces of it that you can't get back out. And
well, the other thing is too is that even like the RTV 108 that I use that is an adhesive, it won't adhere to silicone, or not to PVC. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just not designed for it.
Yeah.
Problem,
Marcus Aerolis also says it comes apart easily.
Yeah, the only thing that you don't get with it is silicone does have a cure time to it, whereas Teflon tape, Teflon paste are designed to be instantaneously installed and used. And that's the one drawback you have with silicone, is you got to give it time to cure before you put water on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is looking good. I see that clump of algae that was there last week. Is it growing at all?
So the Chato's moved a little bit. It's got some like hair algae growing on it right now, so it's still trying to figure itself out. The Caulerpa has been more interesting. So a lot of it kind of bleached out. That's in the real high intensity light.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess this is probably you can see all the runners that have come out that are starting to reach out. And then on the back side, there's a lot of runners too that are trying to reach out in here. And well, you probably can't, I can't tell if it's focusing on the glass or not. Probably not. No, it's not. But the pods that I put in, I'm now reaching the pod explosion level. So
yep, I can see them.
They're
they're starting to multiply like crazy in here, which has made me very happy because I just
Yep.
love seeing the little critters walking around everywhere.
Oh yeah, Mollywood. I was looking at it this week, and it was time to clean the glass, but I didn't because it was loaded. It was absolutely covered with pods. Crazy. Oh,
And
hey,
that's a,
Diacanthus, thank you for that patent number for the soaked-ink oxygenator. I might look into that. Yeah, sorry, Alex, pods. Yeah. Oh, look at
I was
them.
gonna say that's exactly why I left my glass
Yeah.
this way. Like I'm not really worried about. I mean, oh wow, I could see the Astria stars on the back if I clean it off.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that I mean the reason they're on the glass is because that green film is a food source, right? So when the time comes to clean the glass, if you have stuff in your system that will eat the pods as they're free to roam, look at them all. Then that's great because then the fish or the corals or whatever will get them. But in the meantime, you might as well let them proliferate.
Oh yeah, and this is. It's funny. So like just a few days ago, like I just saw a handful crawling around,
Uh-huh.
and now it's starting to get pretty creepy crawly in here. I'm liking it. And I don't know if if I had already done it in the last live stream. So I have done some bioluminescence viewing, and
Oh,
I was happy to say that a couple of bioluminescent worms have flashed at me on these egg crates that I kept.
really?
So I was very happy to see that because they'll spread throughout the whole system here eventually.
Yeah.
If all goes well. So I was very happy to see that.
Yep. And you know, it's interesting. I was just sitting here thinking that we love seeing people's reef tanks, and it's not often we get a chance to look at the foundations of those things and where they start, and you know how the whole ecosystem, what it's based on. And if you start like this, and you've got all of this foundation, and you can keep it healthy and continuing to populate, it's like, man, you've got that foundation that is going to just help everything stay healthier. I mean, I would love it if I could have naturally occurring in my systems the stuff that my corals eat. At the end, the Red Sea would get that, you know, that marine snow at after hours. It was just fascinating to stick the flashlight over top and see the water just full of like dust, what looked like dust, but it was a hatch of some sort. I absolutely love that. And it just makes you realize all of the components that there are to these ecosystems. It's not just fish and coral and inverts. It's like all of this basic stuff. I just love it. I love seeing it.
That's why I don't use filter socks and filter pads, because it's just taking out good stuff.
Yep. Yep. Well, I put 4 bottles, or was it 3 bottles? 3 bottles of Tigger pods, live Tigger pods in Reef Nutrition. And I've already seen on some areas of the rock, when you shine the flashlight in, you can see skittering. So I've got nothing in there to eat them. And hopefully I'll get lots and lots and lots of them by the time the tank is up and running.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for in here too. You know, it's just I did put some. I thought I caught some mysid shrimp at my local fish store and
Yep.
dumped them in. I did see one already in the reef tank, but he might have survived. I had a ton of them, but that Spanish hog, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
he was hunting everything in there constantly, and I've only seen a handful of amphipod sightings in that rock. I mean, that's how good he was at hunting them, from what I could tell. Like, there aren't any of them hardly, but this is a good start. It's a good base. I get, you know, if the pods are exploding in here, you know, the drains for this tank drop right by the return for the 150, for the 400.
that's the thing, is that the drains from
Yeah.
this tank ultimately they're gonna be right by the 4-inch here,
Yep.
so that everything coming out of the refugium should be getting directed into that sump, and then ultimately the 400 and the display.
Yep. Yep.
So it should just be more stuff to feed. The two 500 or the two 250s. Now those do drink to the skimmer over here, so I'm probably going to lose some things, but eventually, some of it bypasses it, and once the main display comes online, that's going to dump in here too. So
Yeah.
I might further restrict the 400 water coming in here. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Well, at some point, all the water has to pass through there, right?
Yeah, and it's one of those things, is that this will never get all the pods and other stuff coming out. There's just too much of it, and it's not all free floating.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
So.
Deep Reef says the pods have to travel a long way in Alex's tank. They might get tired.
They're probably going to make homes inside the drain plumbing too. So
Probably, yeah.
That's the thing, is that all those surface areas are going to generate areas where life can start to form and colonize and consume things.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, all that will go on, and you've got those little portholes to the air valves to push air out that you can peek inside once in a while and see what's going on in there.
Yeah, I'll have to see. Maybe that'll be something too for like the big 4-inch line or something, that I'll have to get a small camera or something to fish through there periodically.
I was just thinking of that. I mean, I'm sure you could get some medical surplus and get like a laparoscope or something like that you could jam in there.
Get a small weatherproof, like a GoPro or something, could fit in 4-inch, and take it on a trip with a light, see what it shows. So.
Well, you know what? You know who uses that stuff is the guys that check municipal sewers. They have that equipment.
I just don't know if I'd want something put through a sewer line into my aquarium.
No, but you'd buy them new, Alex. You wouldn't buy a used one of those. You'd find out where they buy their cameras, and then you would because that's what I mean. I'm thinking that's the scale that you'd be looking at. If you're looking at municipal water lines and things like that, 4 inches probably. Well, I don't know. I don't know if they'd maybe even be a little smaller than that.
I'm sure they make them to fit in all house plumbing sizes, because they're not just used for that. They'll stick them anywhere sometimes to see what's going on.
Yep.
But
man, you can see those pods on the glass. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's I could definitely see a lot of. Now that I look, now I'm not seeing scurrying, but yeah, there's somebody moving right there.
Yep.
Or they were. There they go. Yeah, I think I'm gonna set up a little set up my camera and focus in on the glass manually, and just let it run for 20-30 minutes, and then time lapse it down into like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Just to see them running everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, this was my job today.
Oh. And is this from your prior system?
Yes. So it's literally stacked as like a solid block, because, well, I told my wife that I would clear this stuff out to get both cars into the garage finally. So I've got rock here. I've got my big giant Fukani pieces here.
Oh, those are worth their weight in gold these days.
Oh, I got plans for those. I'm not chopping those up. So I got all this.
Wow.
And then all my big Tonga branching is here.
Oh,
and
yeah.
here
Yep.
and here.
Wow. Have you cleaned this rock? Because it used to be covered in coralline and stuff, right?
Some of it got bleached and some of it got nothing on it. Like this one piece here had nothing on it. That was actually in the temp tank until all the SPS on it died, and then I yanked it out. But this one got bleached, so some of them I gotta soak them and put some dechlorinator on them to make sure they're good to go. But like this guy just got sun bleached, so.
Nice.
But that same dilemma we were talking about, I have a trash can that's partially filled up, and one of the rocks is a plate rock that had a bunch of nirvanas on it, and they're still not gone.
Yeah.
They sat in bleach for 4 months, and well, I just didn't get around to changing it out enough. So I'm gonna have to go back and do that again because I actually got worried today because I opened up the trash can and I had a little bit of a odor in there. It was probably just things decaying, but I was like, oh crap, please don't tell me I just breathed something in.
And you know what that reminds me of? I don't know if you remember when I accidentally boiled my corals when I came back from Reefapalooza in Chicago because I put too many heat packs in. That's the thing that crossed my mind as I took some zoanthids out and opened the little containers, and there was a smell.
Yeah.
And I said to my husband, oh crap, like I hope I haven't fumigated myself.
So,
well, Waterhouse Jason says, ask your proctologist about a camera. And Chimp the Reefer has a wow, LOL. I'm assuming he's talking about all these rocks.
Well, what I'm looking forward to is the vast majority of these I am going to smash them up and I'm going to make negative space aquascape with them.
Right.
So if this is a solid pile of rocks that was in a 700, well, in that tank essentially, and that one, you know, how many cool things can I make without buying any more rock?
Yeah.
So
you'd be surprised how far it goes. I'm done with mine, and I still have 3 or 4 bags of the small rocks that I was sure I was going to need.
Well, my thing is like, so a good example, and it's perfect. So this is like a 10-pound rock. Nobody could swim in this hardly. It's just a 10-pound rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I smash this into like 8 or 9 pieces and glued them together, I could make it a rock that has hiding places in it.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's exactly what I want to do with this. And we'll see how far I can get on it. But I am kind of planning to have some pretty big open water spaces too. So
yeah.
We'll see.
Yep. Yes, Marcus Orlis says endoscope. That's what it is. Endoscope. Endoscope. Yeah, it was a lot of fun kind of reorganizing all those rocks into shapes and things like that when I did it with mine. And I'm not 100% sure I really like what I came up with, but I guess we'll find out. I mean, as far as my main rocks, I'm making kind of a U shape around the back so that the fish have territories and places to go, and I have places to put coral. And then the rest of it is going to be all these arches and just other sort of interesting shapes that I want to put encrusting corals on, because I would love to see like the big branching coral that I have that I got from Dan Middleton. I would love to see each branch have a different encrusting coral all over it. Because I'm about the color. I just absolutely love the color. And that's sort of the thing I have in my mind. All my little arches, I'll probably, make one have hammers on it and another for torches and another for frog spawn, and, kind of scatter them throughout the tank. I don't know. I haven't really come up with the final plan yet, but the whole idea is to maintain that swimming space, because I've only got 5 by 5.5. Diagonally, it's just over 7. So I have to make sure that there is that space for the fish, because I think I want a lot of fish in this tank. He's looking good.
Oh yeah, he's loving it here. He's got probably got like 12,000 gallons of water flow in here, so he just pops in, pops out. I look forward to the day I can put him into his new home.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna make this look like a little baby tank.
Are you going to get more and different types of hogfish, or have you got kind of a stock list in mind?
So in my the big fish tank, I'm gonna do a lot of similar stuff I had before: angels, tangs, some rabbit fish. There are a couple that I want to get that I didn't do before that I'd love to try this time. I really want to try and get some look downs.
Oh yeah, they're great in a group.
That is one of the
things.
reasons why is that it will be a big enough space for them. It'll be more appropriate, and I would love to have like 5 to 7 of them.
Okay, so you've got 8-foot ceilings in your basement, and you're going to have a canopy. This is going to be a deep tank.
Perhaps.
You're so cagey. Oh, and Johnny Martinez says, yes, the camera. You can check with plumbing supply stores, and the camera head has a sensor. You can locate where the camera head location is in the pipe. Really, with 1.5 miles of plumbing pipe.
Well, that's why I put cleanouts in and drains. So if it gets that bad, things could be inspected and or replaced.
Diacanthus, nice non-answer, Alex. Oh man, hey.
Well, it will hold water and fish.
Mm-hmm.
I might eventually try to sneak coral into the fish only section, but I don't foresee that happening for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, are there many fish that really rip away at things like your Sinularia and Stereonepthia and things like that? Like, are there fish that'll destroy that stuff?
I never tried a stereo, but the colt corals I had in there, they never did. Like, they did well for a while. They grew pretty nice, and then they just started slowly going downhill. And I never saw anyone eating them, but I mean, same thing like the green Sinularia. I had a few pieces of that were doing good, and then the only coral that ever lived in that tank successfully was the Blue Ridge.
Yeah.
I tried to put some Rhodactis in. They ate those.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just between the puffers and the triggers and them seeing something that might look tasty next to it. I think they just slowly started eating them.
They get a taste for it.
So, I mean, I never really messed with it a whole lot after that, because I was just like, I'm not going to bother with it right now. And by the time I was getting ready to do it anyways, I tore the whole thing down. So,
yeah. Hey, Ugly Man's Reefing. How's it doing, Shane? How's it doing, Shane? Jeez. I don't know what's wrong with me. I must still be tired. I was out in the sun a little while today. Maybe that's what the problem is.
Yeah, I know the feeling. It was pretty hot over here today, and I literally think I moved like over 1,000 pounds of rocks today. So.
Oh boy.
That's crazy. I moved all the sand buckets to a new part of the garage, and they weigh about 70 to 80 pounds a piece. So.
Holy smokes.
Well, you gotta have some water in there with that sand to ferment properly.
Well, exactly. Got to maintain those organic sludges. Marcus Aerolis is asking if you're going to get any mini groupers.
No, I'm not going to do any groupers at all. I really want to. It'll be an interesting challenge with the look downs if I go that route. But I'd really love to get Pseudochromis again.
Mm-hmm.
And see if I can get a group of them going again, because they're tough little buggers, and I want to make rock structures they can't go in.
Right. Yep. Look downs get at least as large as a dinner plate. We have at least a dozen in one of my fellow researchers' tank. Must be getting a huge tank. Oh yes, Alex is getting a huge tank. We won't know how huge
Yeah,
for a while yet.
it will be more appropriately sized for something like that. So
Yeah. So my favorite dream fish that I will never be able to have is a unicorn tang. So what about that?
I'll probably do a flamingi or two.
Flamingi. Oh man, I love those things. They're like little puppy dogs.
Now I had one in the last tank that it was doing really well. I sold it though, and I couldn't take that one with me, but I think that would probably be like that'd probably be about as big as I go. I mean, those things can get pretty darn big.
And is flamingi one of the types that does develop a bump on its head? Like the unicorn tang is
a little one, but not the full horn. Like I've thought of those too.
I'll never forget seeing a really, really, really big tank, and this tank was so big that the fish could relax and swim like normal. And I'll never forget seeing the 3 unicorn tangs just cruising back and forth. They would go one way and then they come back the other, and they were just slowly swimming through. It was so gorgeous. Instead of, dashing around trying to get up some speed or whatever it is that makes them look so frantic, these guys were just relaxed. It was amazing.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for with the tanks, is that they'll be big enough to where, and the fish can relax. And I do, I don't plan to do like, I'm gonna have some decent sized fish in the big fish tank, and there might be some other ones that go into the reef tank that'll get pretty good size, but I want a lot of little stuff too. I really want to get a decent sized group of chromis or an anthias, to see if I can get them to the point where they kind of roam around as a group.
I can't remember who it was. I know recently, Reef Keeper Phil has got a bunch of Springeri damsels. They're supposed to be pretty decent as far as aggression goes. As being damsels, they're on the lower aggression side of that. And somebody, and I cannot for the life of me remember who it was before Phil, has like 20 of them in their tank. That wasn't you early on, was it?
No, I never got that many, that big of a group of damsels going. It weren't Springerized either. So I had a Zers, and then I just had orange tails, but I didn't have high numbers of them like that.
I've been thinking along the same lines, because I love the tiny fish. I love barnacle blennies, but I know that if I have triggerfish, or at least one, I want to get a pink tail trigger. I'd love to get 3, but I think that's being a little ambitious. But anything like a barnacle blenny, there's a really, really good chance it would get snapped up. And I don't really want to put myself in that situation where I know that they're going to be prey.
Well, and the thing is that if it's a big enough tank, they're introduced at the right time. The feeding that you're doing with everybody is adequate. Got to remember is that the animals, you look at, I'm trying to think of a good way to, it's all about energy that needs to be exhausted to gain something. And if a fish can have something that's a low effort way to get a meal, like a good example is the automatic fish feeder. They learn the time that it's going to happen and they wait there for it. That's because it's a low effort meal for them to get that. But if they'd have, it's not to say a fish won't go if it really is determined, but sometimes they just won't go after stuff because there's easier prey items.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, if you give them zones that are somewhat protected, so that it would be a little bit harder for a larger fish to get at them readily, as long as they stay in their zones, like if they sense that that's their safety thing. And I mean, they coexist in the wild as well. So there's got to be enough of an instinct in a tiny fish to be able to survive being, maybe hunted, as long as they get enough food. Because that's the other thing, because we're in our closed systems, I've always paid a lot of attention to which fish are eating and which are having trouble getting food. And so, for example, the Aurora goby, I always used to go in after dark and target feed that fish because it was the only way it would get any food. Because during the day, not that the other fish were going after it, but it was just too timid to actually go out and feed. And so it'll be interesting. I still haven't finalized exactly what I specifically want. And of course, there's that whole thing about you should introduce them in the order of least aggressive to most aggressive. But if you get a certain way along that spectrum and something at the bottom of the spectrum of aggression dies, you can't really replace it because you're already farther along the spectrum than you should be to put another one in. You know what I mean? So all your plans are like, you have the staging plan, but if anything happens to the first fish that you put in, it's really hard to replace them without putting them at risk of being preyed upon by the latter stages. So I'm not sure how to overcome that.
Well, the other thing you got to remember too, though, is that you have a much larger tank now.
Right.
And the rules on aggression, I mean, they're not. One of the most challenging things I ever had to work on especially when I worked in a local fish store, was trying to understand who's going to be aggressive to who on a day when you had fish coming in.
Oh,
and you
yeah.
got a lot of fish in a small area.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, like a clown tang or a soho, that they could be a real jerk.
Yeah.
But sometimes, it's that you toss them in and, it's like they could care less. And other times you toss them in and, it all hell breaks loose and you're trying to get someone out before they get killed.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of like perfect rules with that. It very much so in saltwater, I find from my experience that, people could put things together that you go, well, that shouldn't really work, but sometimes it just does.
Yeah, it comes down to the individual fish sometimes too.
Or like I was researching a bit on getting like multiple species of Arthron puffers, like other dog faces and stuff. And
right.
I'd never, it was one of those things that we never really did it a whole lot in the store. And, it was one of those that I read many people that had experiences with it, and they'd say, well, I had, 2 or 3 and they got along great for years. And then suddenly one of them killed the other one.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there's no rhyme or reason to it sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Deep Reef says with your real estate and height, you could probably have fish harems and study spawning behavior, etc. Yeah. You already had some of that going on in your last system.
Yeah. My purple pseudochromis were spawning. Let's see, the purple pseudochromis were spawning. The mandarins were spawning. The clownfish were spawning. The royal grommas were showing nesting behavior and likely spawning. I just never tore the nest apart to see if they laid eggs and never caught a hatch. I don't know if the damsels ever tried. I never noticed anything there, but that will be something that's interesting that I'm kind of hoping to see more of is some of that spawning behavior.
Yeah. Well, and because you don't use filter socks and things like that, really you only have the only thing that's going to be a danger to fry is your skimmer. If you ever do have a hatch and have any fry, it'd be interesting to see if at some point in your system you could snag the fry and keep them safe. You know, I don't know whether that's any if there's any way to set that up.
Well, they do have fry traps. I've seen them that will kind of suck, get them out of the water column. They're kind of a passive flow thing.
Yep.
But that would be one of those things where if there was somebody locally that was like, I want to try this, I'd be like, well, I'll tell you what nights to come out, and you could take what you want, and I'm not going to bat an eyelash at it, because the way I look at it is, if it makes it to beyond the fry and do an adult fish on its own, that's the level of effort I'm willing to do.
Well, and the whole thing is, if that actually happens, then that's when you have the true balance, right? When something can be born and live and die, that's not a pod.
Yeah.
Actually accomplish their whole life cycle.
That would be, I would call that like a miracle thing. That would almost be one of those things where if, like, let's say one day, like, I had purple pseudochromis spawning like crazy, and one day I go into, this 250-gallon water storage tank, and there's a baby purple pseudochromis in there swimming around.
Yeah.
I could guarantee you everybody online would just say BS.
Yeah, of course they would.
And I would probably go, well, I don't really know, because technically somebody could have got out of the main, got all the way through.
Yep.
Technically, a fish could survive the skimmer because the water's just dumping into the chamber and getting recirculated. So it would have, and the suction on the pumps have guards on them.
Right.
So unless it was really, really tiny,
Yep. Marcus Aerolis says he had 11 sapphires, 7 azures in a tank before it was cool for a while, but it was hard to add anything their size. Yeah, I only ever had one blue damsel, the yellowtail type, and that fish was a big jerk. Much as beautiful a fish as it was just always mean to anything else that came in after it.
I do have something I want to try in the new display that'll be an interesting experiment to see if I could do it. Is I would like to try and keep multiple pairs of mandarins.
Right.
Keep a pair of spotteds and a pair of psychedelics.
Yep. What about the scooter blennies, the little red, the ruby,
yeah, those little
the ruby ones?
Reds.
Oh, I love those things.
That would be a cool one too to try.
Yeah.
I've never, it's one of those things that I almost wondered in the 480 when I had it before if they would have tolerated. But I don't know what their territory sizes are. I have to read up on that to see how big of a space that a single pair will occupy.
Yeah. Before they start fighting off anyone else who comes by.
Yeah. Or to see something, like I've always had them in pairs, but, I've never read extensively on are those, once they form a bond, are they with each other forever, or will they, move around if there were other partners available?
Right. Yeah. They'd form a little village.
But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things I think that I'd like to see with a lot of the smaller fish, and I'm sure when yellow tangs become somewhat reasonable, I'll try to get some of them too.
Yeah.
But I'm not too worried about it right now.
No, it's one of those things where the sooner you start looking at that stuff, then you start getting, well, I don't know about you, but I just find it really hard to resist getting the fish that I know I'm going to want. Like, for example, my LFS has Royal Grammas right now, and I do want to get 4 or 5 of them, probably 5. And here's me thinking, okay, so I'm going to be bringing Mollywood home. And if I can find a way to get that big giant piece of rock out of there and replace it with some smaller rocks, I could get 5 Royal Grammas and have them in an observation tank. Because that's the whole idea with Mollywood, to keep it running, is that's where I'm going to put new fish that I get so I can make sure they're okay before I put them in the main tank.
That would be an interesting challenge because, well, I kept 3 together once in a 120. But when I had my larger group, so like 5 to 7 of them, like some of them didn't get accepted into the local group and kind of got rejected to the other side of the tank. And they'd only come by to visit here and there.
Yeah.
So it's that is probably one thing that even with my arrival center tank, that there might be a few that I have to make some judgment calls on whether or not I could do that, or I have to subdivide those tanks. And then I go,
yeah,
is that going to stress these fish out even more?
Yeah.
To do that. So I'm going to try and do that, because at the same time too, I probably wouldn't be against saying I don't need to purchase the whole group at once. I will get, 2 or 3 that can be in the 100, and then when they go in, I can get 2 or 3 more.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember what fish it was that we had. It might have been Oscars, when I put 2 Oscars together. The wisdom is, as long as they have places to go where they don't always see the other fish, you can get away with it. And as it turned out, these guys ended up being a bonded pair. I think they were females. So that's kind of what I was thinking about my aquascape. As you look at it, there really shouldn't be any direct line of sight from one side of the tank to the other. It'll be interrupted with rocks and open space and coral and more rocks. And looking diagonally, same thing. The only place that it will be unobstructed will be in the upper half, of course, which will be swimming space until the corals all start to grow up into it. So, maybe you can get away with having 2 flame hawks if you put one in the back corner or one in the front corner and they stay there. I don't know.
Yeah, again, it comes down to that. Are they going to tolerate or form a territory, or one just decides, I don't like you and I'm not going to stop?
Yeah. Yep. Well, and the beauty of that is now I actually have somewhere I can put fish if there's a problem, because I can always open up another section of the sump and, put a light over it. And if there are fish that are having trouble, I can move them temporarily until a situation resolves, or I want to try again, or who knows, right? At least there's an option for that, where I never had that before. Yeah,
this is, I gotta say, everything's been working fairly well for the most part. So
yeah.
just minor things.
Look at that calcium reactor.
I filled it up. I bought my new media and I dumped it in, so I got that done.
Smokes. Have you got the original Reborn at the bottom there?
Yes.
Good for you. I have 2 bags of that, and then the rest is all the new stuff.
This is the, what the heck is this? I saw ReefGrrl using it, and I said, I'll give it a shot. This.
Yeah. Is that the ESV stuff?
Coral Lazarus from Brightwell.
From Brightwell, yeah. He was talking about that. And so you have two different size media grains. You've got small stuff and big stuff.
Yeah, so the bottom, all the big stuff is the two little fishes
The
reborn.
Yeah.
And then I threw the coral lazarus and their magnesium on there too. So
yeah, I haven't got any magnesium yet. I mean, I'm a long way off getting the calcium reactor set up. I'm still operating on dosing like under 10 mils of alkalinity and calcium a day right now, just with the use that I have going on.
yeah,
So it'll be a while.
I don't think I'm gonna be using this right away, and it's probably not gonna be what goes on to start my supplementation at the beginning.
No.
So
no, you've got all that water volume that helps too.
Well, and I'm going to probably be getting a calc stirrer here in the near future.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I have some videos to watch about that because now everybody's talking about using the sludge and a safe way to use the sludge because of the precipitated minerals and stuff that it probably contains.
Yeah, I haven't read too much on that yet. I did see somebody saying they use it and they're like, I don't know why anyone doesn't, but that's one of those things where you got to read a lot of things and understand why that is, and if it really does make a difference or not.
Well, do you ever think that, I mean, it's one of those things where from back in the olden days, when you use calcium hydroxide, you don't use the precipitate, you just use the clear solution. So the reasoning behind that had to have come from somewhere. I don't know whether back in the old days, somebody tried different ways of using it and found that the clear solution held the dissolved quantities of whatever that worked, you know? And so then over the years, everybody forgets that, yeah, they did prove it originally. And so the question comes around again.
Well, and the reason that it stays in that powder, you know, it stays in a form on the bottom is that the idea is the water inside the chamber reaches saturation. So nothing else will dissolve in it.
Right.
So as you take solution out and add more RODI in, it should allow more of that powder to dissolve into the water and become soluble in it to saturate it. So whether or not, you know, is it, you know, I guess it becomes one of those things of, is it just that bacterias and things form in it that it starts to become a gunk and it can jam up your stirrer, or is it there's some, you know, not everything is coming out of it and there is stuff staying behind that could be harmful.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really have any experience to speak of with calclosser, so, but that's kind of what I want to mess with it. I got to get a pH probe on here still, but I think that's going to happen pretty soon. And then I'm going to get a calc stirrer and I'll probably use that at the beginning with this. And then when needed, the calcium reactor will go online.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing I'm going to use the hydros for. I'm going to hook up the pH probe and see what the actual pH is in my system right now, because I have no clue. I mean, I have the American pinpoint. I could probably set that thing up in 5 minutes and know. I just haven't done it yet. So
same here. It's I haven't really. I don't have any idea what the pH is at, but hey, everything's still alive. So
yeah, same with mine. I mean, things look good. What I don't have is polyp extension on the Montipora plates, and I think it's to do with flow. I'm sure there's not enough flow for them where they are right now, and I don't know what I can do to address that at this point. So they're just going to have to wait until they're mounted on rocks on an actual aquascape before I can get them what they need, right? But the pH thing, I haven't worried about it too much. There's so much open water. There's so much aeration going on. It's in the basement. you know, people don't congregate down there. There's a window that we open periodically. Like a lot of the components of what contribute to stable pH and, you know, at good levels are there. So we'll see. I'm going to try and do it in the next week or so and get it all hooked up and running and just see what I can do with it. And then I'll find out.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. Is that I haven't tested the pH at all, and everybody's still alive. So
Yeah.
once I get it on there, though, it'll be interesting to toy around with that a bit. And it just, you know, I've been talking to some friends that have been dabbling in that and seeing good results, and
Yeah.
I'd never really tried to do much with it before, and I'd just be kind of I like to try new things. So.
Oh yeah. Yep. Hey Fletcher, right? Welcome. Yeah, Deep Reef says kalkwasser precipitate is the undissolved calc plus any impurities. The impurities are never going to dissolve, and you don't want to dose that. So my practice had been to, I only ever saturated it to half strength because I wanted to avoid gunking up the peristaltic pump I was using, because it was just a little cheapo Camor that was meant for watering plants. And so my calc was only ever half strength. So I never really did have much precipitant. And I kept it in a big 2-gallon jar, like the cheese ball jars like that, only it was from dog biscuits. And I would pour it off into 1 liter or 2 liter containers that I used to use that came from Melifix and Pimafix, because they were a good size. They had solid lids. They were easy to handle. And my husband drilled a hole in the lid of each one. I had 2. I would alternate. So I always had 1 ready to go. And the hose would go in there that I had attached to the little Camor thing. And I always covered the spare one. I covered the hole up with tape so that it couldn't get air in and have problems with carbon dioxide causing that white filmy stuff in it, right? Because carbon dioxide does react with it. So that's why it should be kept sealed. And that worked really, really well. My pumps never gunked up. I finally figured out what the dose should be. I wasn't relying on the variability of my ATO and the amount of evaporation that was going on at any given time of the year. I always dosed a certain amount, and it was minimal. And it worked extremely well. So I would do the same thing over again when it came to it. Except, of course, I'm up against that thing. It's 6 times the water volume. So if I dosed 50 mils a day that way, I'd be dosing 300 mils a day with a similar proportion of water volume in livestock. And who knows, because 300 mils a day would use up one of those jugs in like a week. And it was taking almost a month to use one. So, you know, it's another one of those big system challenges that I have to figure out.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like somebody I was talking to, and I asked them because they sent me a thing of their pH graph, and they were getting it closer up to 8.3. I was like, oh, that's good. And then they messaged me back. They're dosing 5.5 gallons of kalkwasser solution a day.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I don't even auto top off that much in a day.
Mine uses about 3 gallons a day. We figured it out, 3.3 gallons a day as currently. So I'm going to assume if I double plus the water volume, I'm going to have 30 square feet of open water up here. And downstairs is going to be 4 stock tanks, 3 of which will have lids on them. So I'm thinking maybe 5 gallons. I don't know. Oh, True Skills is back. Yeah. Let's bring Aaron back in.
Yeah, it'll be a fun thing to experiment with, and then who knows? Yeah. Maybe I'll have enough water volume. I might go dabbling with that potassium hydroxide stuff.
Yeah, I use calcium hydroxide. And I bought the ESV big bottle. You know those BRS 2-liter bottles that they sell all their stuff in? I have the ESV same size bottle.
Okay.
And it's like, but I only ever used 2 teaspoons every time I made it up. So it's essentially a lifetime supply. Hey, Aaron. Oh, look, there it is. There's the meat.
Oh yeah, just watch this.
Oh my.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy.
Cool.
I can't wait till the wife sees it though. She's upstairs putting the little one to sleep.
Did you make them or buy them?
We purchased them, but I made them. I just got when Cindy started the stream, I had literally had them on the grill for like I'm gonna say probably about 10 minutes.
Ah, okay.
So how long did you have them on there?
I'm gonna say about 10 or 15 minutes before you started the stream.
Yeah.
And right about the time I had to go to the store is when I pulled them from I went to the store and then came back and then pulled them from the grill to the stove, and I set the stove at 250.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's what you meant about
So,
finishing them off. Yeah.
Yeah. I think excuse you, son. That was rude. I started them at roughly, I'm gonna say 7:30-ish after the coals were up and going.
Mm.
And I literally about, I don't know, 3 minutes ago, well, 3 minutes prior to hopping back on here, I pulled them out.
Oh, nice.
So
is this like midnight snack, or is it for tomorrow, or?
it was kind of midnight snack and tomorrow. They were the sell or freeze by date was yesterday.
Oh yeah.
So, and our freezer is currently jam packed. So it was either cook them or lose them.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm not losing ribs.
No, I've been in that situation. When I first quit my job, somebody doesn't
Yes.
want to go to sleep. I know what that
No,
sounds like.
that's my 3-year-old. My older son took my Pepsi from him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when I first quit my job that I worked in downtown Toronto, and I was burned out, didn't have another job. We did a whole bunch of reorganizing of our finances so I could do that. So it meant we didn't have much money. And I discovered,
that's like me now.
Well, and I discovered what day of the week the grocery store marks down all the meat that's surplus because it's about to go, they won't be able to sell it anymore.
Uh-huh.
And man, oh man, does it ever make a difference when you can get meat for 50% off?
Yes.
Like really, and it took me years to not feel the need to do that anymore, to be able to just go and get what I needed when I needed it.
Yeah.
But
it's like
man, some good deal. Lamb is one of those things people don't eat a lot of, and I happen to love it.
I wish I could get more of it.
And periodically they would bring in a whole bunch and have it on sale, and then not enough would sell because it is kind of a weird market. And I'd go in there and just load up on it for like 50% off, and just it was amazing. Anyway,
Turn on Cosmos again.
I'm a bargain hunter.
What, you don't want to watch Cosmos? Sorry about that.
That's okay. Marcus Aerolis says potassium bicarb or carbonate would be better. You would still have to add calcium. We're just talking, Aaron, about Kalkwasser and dosing. So he says get a potassium test kit, and if it climbs to over 420, switch to a sodium carbonate. Yeah, it's getting too complicated for me right now to think about it when the time comes.
Yeah, I'm not even there yet because I gotta start messing with count first, and
yeah,
that's like a future display is online, and I have pH concerns and having, you know,
Mhm.
I'm not worried about keeping up with everything with Calculone because I'm just going to piggyback the calcium reactor on it once the demand is there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much something that happens in stages. And I guess it's kind of like when I was cycling the sump. It went through its cycle. I mean, I had nothing in it for probably a month. I made sure I took my time. And then it was like it was instantly ready. And I never really had any problems. When I brought the stuff in, the algae that was on those rocks because I had lost my herbivores and was having problems keeping the algae down. And it just got worse because I had nothing to eat it. And so now that's why I'm hoping the Tomini tang will. That's why I'm plucking it, trying to get as much as I can off manually so it gets down closer to the rocks because they don't dive into that deep stuff when it's really, really long. So
You could always get the one thing that will take care of your algae problem.
Cucumber.
No.
Oh, a sea hare.
No.
No?
Get
Okay.
a long spine sea urchin.
Long spine sea urchin. Will they eat that long hair algae?
Oh yeah.
Maybe I should think about it. And can they stick to the Rubbermaid tanks, or do
Oh
they
yeah.
have
They
problems?
will.
Yeah.
The only thing with urchins that you just it's only happened to me one time. And it's really easy to resolve. It's just make sure any electrical cords in the tank. I've never had one chew one through, but I've had them kind of scrape it.
Mm,
So I always put like a little guard on them so
yeah.
that they can't go scraping on them. But
Yeah.
sea
That's that
urchins,
stuff you can wrap around, right?
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, or some gutter guards, something they just, they don't have a long reach. So as long as they can't reach past that, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
I was considering getting some, but I don't want them in my pond liner tank because I don't want to
Mhm.
find out if they can eat through pond liner.
No.
I can almost guarantee they probably could. Oh, Alex, question.
Oh,
Yep.
the clam. Yeah. Here, let me pop this up full screen.
It has receded. I'm gonna say due to probably a crab, because it did have some of this algae on it. So, but as you can see, where's my finger? That section right there. I mean, I'll see if I can get a more detailed picture of it, and I'll send it up for the next one. But
It's receded in though, huh?
yeah.
Never a good sign.
But if I go directly down that, you can see the mantle on the inside coming in.
Yeah.
It's not per se peeling off of the shell, but
Yeah,
it
it's
looks
just
like
retracting in, and it's not touching the edge of the shell anymore. It's retracted back.
yeah. So is this thing
So,
on its way out?
it's hard to say with clams. When they die, they die. Um, it could be something bothering it.
Okay.
One thing you could do, well, I should say it's unlikely, but you could check it to see if there's any pyramid snails on it at night.
Pyramid
Yeah.
snails.
Yeah, they're really tiny snails. They almost look like a cerith snail. They'll be generally like a tan color. They hide during the day, but they feed on clams. Sometimes they could be on hitchhikers, and they could be a hitchhiker on something. But if they are there, they would either hide underneath it on the foot or in the sand around them. They're very tiny, but a lot of times they come out at night. But generally, if you got them, it probably because you've had it for a little while now,
Yeah.
it probably would have shown something up earlier. So
I'm almost thinking, and I noticed the last couple streams you guys had mentioned that it looks like I'm feeding kind of heavy. So I backed off a little bit, cut down the light cycle, probably about an hour and a half over 5 or 6 days. But I'm not sure if the clams reacting to high phosphates and nitrates, or if something actually got a hold of it. Because what I was telling Cindy earlier, like if you see right here, there's some of this nonsense right there on the corner.
yeah, it could have been somebody chewed on them a bit, but clams actually do pretty well and with a little higher phosphate and nitrate.
Okay, good.
So that and even heavy feeding the tank itself, they'll filter feed out of it what they want.
Okay.
But if you have something retracting on it, it could be something irritating it. It could just be something wrong.
Yeah, I honestly think that I'm probably going to need to move it because every once in a while, the clowns, as you see, digging a nice massive hole. And I'm thinking I saw like some sand on it a couple days ago, but I didn't see anything retracted like it is right now.
You could try to move it. If you do move it, and I wouldn't suggest moving it often if you can help it. But if you do move it, make sure it closes up all the way and just give it a good inspection all the way around and see if you see any little tiny snails on it.
Okay.
I mean, I'd never really had that. I never really witnessed that on like a Hippopolis before, but I only kept a couple of them.
Okay.
But you can get a pinched mantle. Something might be irritating it or bothering it. It might come back, but sinking in is sometimes that could be a sign of something worse going on. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and that's it. This will be my first clam, and I'm quite honestly, I'm surprised I've kept it this long. I've never had any experiences with clams. So I figure I was going to get the clam and inside of like 2 months, it was going to be dead. But I guess I'm wrong because I think I'm creeping up on month and a half, 2.5 months, somewhere in that range.
I think it's like a lot of things. If you give it what it needs to feed on in the right environment, you've got good water quality. It's got the calcium, alkalinity, whatever else it needs. It's mainly calcium, isn't it, Alex? They slurp up.
I know. That one I can't remember. I mean, as long as your levels in the tank are good, it's getting a food source and it's getting the light that it needs, which, the light's the primary for them.
Yeah.
And usually you just kind of leave them alone and let them do their thing. And if nothing's bothering them, they tend to do pretty well.
Well, the one thing I can say is I've noticed like the zooxanthellae like clusters have reappeared. It's not as translucent as it used to be.
Oh, are those black spots you were talking about the first time we looked at this?
No, okay. Some like a Maxima clam's nice and dark. I mean, as far as like the coloration of everything, it has become more translucent prior to this problem, and then now that this has showed up, like the mantle itself is a lot darker. I know it's not as big wide, but it's a lot darker. Like it looks like it has legit colors now versus it just being a transparent skinned film.
Do you dose any phyto at all?
Yes.
Okay, that was Marcus aerolis. And
Phytoplex.
okay, and Broke Reef Man says put your hand over it, see if it closes.
Give me one quick second.
Like, does it have that reflex? Or put something in?
Yeah, once they stop having the reflex, that's
Well, here's your answer. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
not moving at all.
Not closing, not doing nothing.
Yeah, bring it up closer to the camera. Yeah, it might be toast. Yeah, it's way sunken in.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's too
if
bad.
it's not closing at this point,
Yeah, no, I'm squeezing and it's not closing.
yeah, it might be dead.
Ooh, what the hell is that? Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. He was running on the tip of the shell.
Oh, you got a pod on it?
I'm not sure if it's a pod or something, but
Well,
it's right here inside the white piece.
if it's dead though, everything's gonna start eating it.
Yeah. Is it better to remove it?
Yeah, it's a small tank. You could if it's not reacting now. You see
Yeah,
the
like
bottom side of it? Yeah, there's no foot extended or anything.
I mean, it's just a little chunk of the hair algae right here. It had a chunk like that right here. But I mean, the fact that this thing's not closing anymore. I mean, this is the first time I've touched it in probably, I don't know, 3.5 weeks. So I'm probably gonna say chuck it, it's dead.
Now you could try and leave it there and see if it reacts or anything, but I'm gonna probably say it's done.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Like even out of water,
How's it smell?
it's not closed up.
How's it smell?
We're smelling again.
Well, we didn't hear
I
a
mean,
big. Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, it doesn't smell like rotten decay.
That probably just died then.
Yeah, because you, Aaron, you only noticed that in the last couple days, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna say about 3.5 days.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
might have still been alive. It was probably on its way out because after a day or two, if you would have picked that up and it was already dead, you probably would have been making some different noises after you smelled it.
Oh yeah, I can almost guarantee I'd have probably smelled it well before then. I'm a stickler about smelling things in my house. I played with chemicals in the Army, so when stuff starts smelling in my house, I go haywire until I figure out what it is.
yeah, me too. I'm terrible when it comes to that. If there's a smell in my fridge, everything comes out until I figure out what it is.
Well, unfortunately, that kind of sucked.
Yeah. Sorry about your clam.
Hey man, shit happens. Ooh, yeah, sorry about that. Oh, come on. Let me get a couple more paper towels, please. Oh, yeah, even with it being set out this far and this long, it's still not closing at all. Jacob, hold this, please. I need to dry my hands off.
Well, if you want to keep the shell, just chuck it outside for a little while, and that'll end up decomposing, and then you'll have a shell.
Actually, and a blenny will live in a shell like that.
Or you can mount frags to them.
Yeah.
I thought about that.
Yep, I'm keeping Stanley's shell. Lost Stanley because of the green wrasse. And I still have the shell. And my plan is to put it somewhere in the tank where a Midas blenny or oh, who knows? Even a couple little barnacle blennies can live in it.
Well, do clams do the same thing as, well, why am I trying to ask a retarded question? Do all clams produce pearls?
Those are oysters, I think, aren't they?
I don't know the right answer to that because I know that I've seen giant I've seen giant pearls before, but I don't know if those are coming out of like gigas or squamosa or dorate. I don't know.
Okay.
I know oysters. I think they do on a more regular basis, but I don't know. I think
I could be
it
wrong with the
could be
clam,
any clam that can do it. I don't know.
or I could be wrong with the clam, and Cindy's most likely right on that one.
So somebody Google world's largest pearl because, as I recall, somebody just turned one in a few years ago that like they were sleeping on it or something.
Wow. Well,
Like
some of
they
those
literally
big,
put it under the mattress because it was very, very large. And I mean, outside of giant clams, I don't think there's anything else.
yeah, that's the one
Wow.
thing I was just about to say. Them giant clams probably produce some serious size jewels.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's
Aaron.
probably pretty rare though.
Yeah. Hey, Aaron, Fletcher Wright is asking what lights you're running.
It is a Coral Life. Give me 1 second. Jacob, turn on the room light, please. Turn on the room light, please, son. All right, give me 1 second. I gotta reflop this back over properly without breaking or cutting myself. Unfortunately, I showed y'all that.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
That came from right there.
That's scary.
Oh yeah, it sucked completely. I had to dig into the tank to find it.
Hey, what was in that? Like,
Just a little decorative vase with flower in it.
Oh, so there was.
It was just up here.
So there wasn't anything that could have affected your water quality in your tank?
Negative.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, light. It is a Coral Life.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh yeah.
15%. It's a Coral Life 30 to 36 Seascape LED.
30 to 36 Seascape LED. Oh, cool. And do you know, Aaron, is that, I know Marine Land makes a couple of different types of these types of LEDs, and there's one that's rated for fresh water, one for plants, and
If I
one
remember
for coral.
correctly, if I remember correctly, this is specifically marine grade for reef.
Marine, yeah.
Go downstairs in the basement and see if you can find the box for this real quick, son. It's going to be a big long box. Purple box, says Coral Life on it.
You've got all your little helpers. And Chili Wills is wondering how old the tank is. I forget. I know you told us.
This specific setup in this form is probably March, late March, early April. Wait, no.
So a couple months?
Yeah, I'm gonna say like 2.5, maybe 3 months. I think I had this thing set up for about a month before I caught your first stream, and being in your first stream. But prior to that, a good majority of this rock and the clowns and the anemone and those mushrooms and the big purple one back here were all in a 15-gallon that has been running for roughly almost 3 years.
Right. Yeah, the consensus, a couple of guys are saying it's possible the clam wasn't getting enough light.
At one point in time, I had over 13-hour cycle on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been the par value might not have been there for it.
I think the max output par on these things is like 75, and that's directly under it.
Right.
Like the plate might be catching 75, but this is probably catching like 60 and some change, 50.
Yeah.
the mushroom on the backside's probably catching less than 30.
Yeah, that's
Right.
a pretty low amount of par for a clam.
And then those in the back, they've split so many times it's ridiculous. Like they're starting to walk apart from each other.
The Herm 14 says he has a blenny that made peace with his blue maxima, lies in the lower portion of the mouth, and the maxima does fine. And yes, I know Mile High Reefer does have clowns in his maxima. I think it's a maxima.
Yeah, he's got a big
Oh
one.
no, it's a squamosa. Yeah, it's huge. It's about a foot long. It's crazy,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, they're figuring it is possible. It may have needed more light, like somewhere around. Marcus Orla says somewhere around 200.
Okay, so no clams for me anytime soon.
Unless you can move it up higher. I mean, I don't know what the output is on the top of your rock work there. What it would be.
I think give me a quick second. I'm gonna go downstairs real quick. I'm gonna kill my cam because I have to use my flashlight.
Well, with a glass top on there, you're gonna lose some par too.
Yeah, true enough, because condensation makes a huge difference too.
Yeah. Well, I try to go through it like once a week and wipe off everything. So
Yeah. I've had glass lids on tanks, and they're high maintenance.
all right, give me one quick second while I'm trying to get this thing up so that way you guys can actually see the tank while I'm running downstairs to get everything. Oh, Jimmy Christmas, it's not going to do it.
Diacanthus recommends checking some of James Fothery's content on clams.
I will do so.
To my understanding, hippopus are light hogs on par with croceas because of the depth they occur at. Yeah, from shallow waters, I would guess.
All right, give me about 45 seconds. I'll be right back. Gosh.
I gotta catch myself up on all the latest clam stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a bit out of date.
Ooh, that's pretty. Let's look at that for a little bit. Love the algae.
Not too much on here.
No.
Those are feather dusters.
Oh, they're feather dusters. Okay, because you move so quick, I thought it was algae, but I see what you mean. They're cool. I saw them on here before.
Can you spot the sea cucumber?
Ah, I thought about getting a sea hare. And, you know, because you can borrow them apparently. And then when they finish the job, you take them back.
Yeah, the two I got died. So that's why I was like, I tried them and they lived like a week. And I was like, they did eat a lot, but they didn't finish the job. And then they died. And they're another one they could release toxins. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stick with my sea urchins and snails.
Stick with what you know, right? Yeah, Broke Reef Man 45 says, when I had clams, the minimum light needed was 250 watt in metal halides. And that was in a 180.
I used to keep, I had my clam tank, I had twin 150s, but it was a 12-inch deep tank and the lights were like a foot above it. So.
Wow.
Dad, whatever you
stop. The clams love that. Straight 65 or was it? I think it is 6,500K.
6,500K is daylight, essentially.
Yeah. I didn't 10K. I might have got. I can't remember if I did 10K bulbs. I used to really dislike 20K. I used to as real like it just washes. It just doesn't look right.
Yeah, I agree with you with that.
I've got past that though.
Sorry.
Quote from the Aquarium Invertebrates. A look at the Hippopus clams by James Fothery. 2 R's, 2 E's. And he's quoting about where they come from. They're not deeper than 20 feet. Tridacna croceas are deeper. 2 clams will need even more light than most others. Okay. So hippopus are high light.
Okay, so
Cool. Well, you know what? We all learned something tonight by the sounds of it.
I can't exactly find the box right now, but if I remember correctly, something along right here
Yeah.
should be about 75, and anything
Okay.
lower drops down into the 50, and about right here it starts cutting off pretty bad to nothing.
Yeah. So you've got exactly the right things growing in here right now. I mean, the plate is looking good.
That's a lot smaller than it was earlier today. Well, yesterday, and I did a water change. That thing was probably double the size, puffed up.
Yeah, but it's obviously getting enough light. And then the octo spawn you've got there is a fairly large piece, and it's looking happy.
Ow, 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 ow. Let me see if I
Look
can
at
do
the
this real quick.
candy cane Alex has got going on here. Okay.
Ooh,
That
those
is
trumpets
pretty.
or candy canes?
Yeah, same thing.
Oh,
Trumpet coral.
gotcha.
Calastria. And look at those nuclear green mouths on that thing. Holy
Yeah, for
smokes.
real.
And that's not even like a nuclear green one. That's the minty green.
Oh boy.
Oh wow.
I have that. I think it was in my video earlier. I have quite a large colony. It's about the size of a melon.
Nice.
And that's going to be the other challenge, right? Is placing these things when the tank is ready to go.
Come on. Give me
Yeah,
a
I gotta get the nuclear greens and the candy stripes back.
Yeah. Well, I have the purple with the green mouth. I have the toxic
good night.
nuclear green.
Nice.
And I have the minty green, but my minty green doesn't have a mouth like that. My minty green are pretty much minty green throughout.
You know, and the funny thing is, so this Calastria was left under my Kessel refugium light with plastic in the way, and it was kind of off to the side of everything. But I think it actually grew a decent amount during its stay in the temp tank, because I don't recall it being this large.
Wow.
So this is like one of the first pieces I put in here too, and it opened right up, and I was like, okay.
Yep.
You know,
and when they're happy, they are happy.
Oh
you
yeah,
know, they
grow
don't
like little weeds too.
Yep, and they don't seem to go through like, I don't know, it's hard to describe. Like they're either happy or they're really not happy.
Yeah.
One extreme or the other.
All right, here is a top down of the octo.
Oh yeah.
Nice and healthy.
Yep. So it must be getting enough light.
I mean, you can see the algae, the fresh white sand around the plate.
Yep.
Sometimes it puffs up rather big.
Yep.
I had to dig this section out because one of these shells was up and like laying on it. So I didn't want to touch it, so I just disturbed the sand around it. But the sand on the backside, you can kind of see the algae patch.
Yeah.
Right around it.
And you know, if you said if it's 6,500 K, that's daylight, that could be contributing to your algae growth too.
Well, the algae that was on this other chunk right here.
Yep.
Once I put it back here, it all died.
Yep, because it's out of the light.
Okay. Well, those I'm not too worried about because eventually the mushrooms will just cancel that out. But this is a decent size of nutrient export for me.
Yep.
Because I chopped this down pretty big the other day and actually was doing the water change while I was chopping it, so I didn't have anything floating in the tank. I took your advice on that one.
And you know what? The flow, yeah. You know
Yep.
what's interesting? I was just thinking, you know, people run algae scrubbers. So like maybe that's your algae scrubber. It just happens to be in your tank.
And I just happened to found my zoes. Right in between, all the way in the back.
Okay.
That means they got picked off the rock up here by Mr. Thug.
Hmm. Yeah.
But what I was saying with the splitting of the these guys,
Oh yeah.
that was
Alex, is that a chalice, Alex? The green and purple? Sorry to
That
interrupt, Aaron.
that
Yeah.
one? That's
Yeah.
a maxi mini carpet.
Yeah, I was gonna
Oh,
say that kind of looked like a
really?
maxi. I was either gonna
Oh,
say a maxi or a flower pot, or not flower pot,
wow.
rock flower.
Cool.
That's free care.
My freak hair doesn't look that good. I can hardly wait till it comes back.
It actually is recovering pretty nicely. It's still a little dim, and then we probably can't see it, but that rock in the center's got a little bit on it that I think that rock was turned on its side or something, but that one's coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right. And even after 10 minutes of it being out of the light or out of the tank, still
Yeah.
gapped.
yeah, that clam's done.
Like even trying to like legitly squeeze it, it finally just popped.
Hmm.
But I'd say, yeah, she's done. But here's the beautiful thing.
Well, I mean, you learned something from it, right?
It grew that line.
Yep.
So I'm gonna say, come on with that. I hate it when it does this. I'm gonna probably say it grew probably yay much in the time frame I had it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably about a mill and a half.
Hmm.
But that kind of sucks though. Oh well.
Oh yeah. Hey,
Better knowledge.
yeah, exactly. Well, it's how we all learn. Unfortunately, you can't find out everything by watching YouTube or reading books. Unfortunately.
I got a good chunk of my stuff from BRS.
Yep. That's a good. I look at them as a really good source of information as long as you remember they're selling products.
Yeah,
But
well, that and the other guy that I was watching when I very, very, very first started was what was his name? New York Stilo.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah.
My girl would look at me and she's like, "Why are you just watching that tank?" I said, "Because this dude's talking about some information I want to know."
Yeah.
45-minute video and all you see is the tank. But he goes on full bore discussion about this specific topic. I think I probably watched everything on that man's channel.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, Alex, Johnny Martinez is wondering he says, I love feather dusters. Do you think it's better to have them in sand or rock?
Depends on the species, but like I'll say like these little colonel guys that I got,
Yeah.
they will go in the sand, they will go on the rocks, they will go pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
The cocoa worms with the harder shells, I usually see those more get put in rock structures. I don't see why you couldn't necessarily put them in sand, but and then like the Florida feather dusters, some of those big ones, they'll kind of go either way. If they're really not happy, like these little colonel ones I have, like at night, I'll see them eject themselves out of their tube and go free floating sometimes.
Oh, really?
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like little dandelion seeds floating around.
Yep.
That'd be cool.
But they want to be in a place where they got good flow,
Mm-hmm.
and they're catching food, and as long as they have that, I've never really seen or had an experience with them where it's like they won't just attach their tube to it eventually.
Yep.
I've never tried the cocoa worms myself, though. Those are ones that I do want to try them this time. But the regular feather, like colonel feather dusters or the big Florida ones, they'll pretty much go wherever.
They really are cool critters. Marcus Aerolis, Aaron, he's wondering if you ever figured out what type of anemone you have, because maybe that's not getting enough light either.
I can't help that one.
Yeah.
It moved on its own.
Okay.
The original positioning of the anemone was on the gap in between under the rock. And when
Yep.
I put it in here, I didn't put the glass lid on yet, and I had the light centered,
Mm-hmm.
and it went from center over.
So it was going away from the light.
Yes.
That's bizarre.
The only thing that I can say that it might be going to is natural light, because in the morning, this corner right here, perfectly natural lit.
Hmm.
And depending on how far it goes, like sometimes even the rock flower can catch natural light, which is kind of weird because as you see, there's no like actual path to the rock.
Interesting.
So, I mean, I'm not exactly sure.
Hmm.
But the one thing I can say is everything's growing, so I'm doing something right.
Oh yeah, like it. What's like you're going through stages, right? Just like any tank, there's always phases where things come and go, and you know what you figure out what works, what doesn't, what lives, what won't. You know.
Yeah. Well, in my full experience of reefing, the best I've ever been able to do, I was told it was a golden hammer, or not golden hammer, a golden torch. But when I got it, it was nice and small, and it still had the full gold sheen, bright, like tan type tips, like silver-ish. And then within 6 months, it turned into something from tentacles yay big to tentacles as long as my finger, and it turned purple.
Yeah,
It's
it
all sorts of
happens.
crazy.
Yep. And Diacanthus is saying Christmas tree worms and Procula magnifica are two favorites. I'd like a particular soft tube feather duster from southern Japan, but I've never come across one. Not sure on what species. And then he says in his next comment that it's probably because of the type of tube that it has goes into rocks, and it's hard to harvest. But if you guys are interested in Christmas tree worms, I haven't seen him on here for a while, but Michael Lee, he's on Instagram as Bisma Worm Guy. He was on here early on, maybe not real early, but quite a while ago, showing his tank with NPS, Christmas tree worms, sea cucumbers, sea apples, and all kinds of stuff like that. He has an NPS Gorgonian that's yellow, and it's really cool. Haven't seen him here for a while, but if you check out Instagram, BISMA, Bisma Worm Guy. He hasn't posted there for a while either. Geez, I hope he's okay.
It's one thing I really do want to try and dabble with a bit is some of the non-photosynthetic.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chili coral once that was kind of cool.
I kept sun corals, and I even had one spawn once in my very first reef tank.
Nice.
But I was feeding it because it was in a 15-gallon. I was feeding it constantly, and then the dendro I got right now is I've had that thing for probably a year now. That thing's been happy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd really like to. That's like I'd probably have to let the tank mature a while and really start to see. But I'd love to try and keep like a carnation coral at some point.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few people doing it successfully.
Was it you, Alex, that tried a carnation coral, or who the heck was that? Maybe it was Pat Murphy.
I've only worked with those in stores when I worked there. I never have tried to keep one myself.
Right. Hey, Alfie's Reef, welcome. Nice to see you. I know you're in here from the UK. Yeah, it might have been Pat Murphy that tried the carnation corals, and it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the pods. You need that stuff free floating as marine snow, essentially, I think, to keep those things alive. Or the ability to add that.
Yeah, there's somebody on Reef to Reef. I'm wanting to say his name's Dr. Dendro or something that has been keeping them. And it was a lot of their feeding requirements were quite high.
Yeah.
And I want to say I even read something about someone messing with them in labs or something in more of a scientific setting. And it was a challenging thing to do.
Yeah.
Like anything else, though, I mean, everyone used to think Gonaporo was impossible to keep, too. So,
Yep. Well, it's the changing systems that we keep, because we're trending back now towards having water that's not so sterile. So it gives you kind of maybe a little bit different perspective on what it's going to take to keep some of the NPS corals alive, because now we have ways of maintaining the nutrient levels so that they're not so screamingly high, but there might be enough nutrients to keep those things now.
Yeah. I'm actually going to have to leave because my phone just beeped at me for 5%.
well, have a good evening.
Yeah, yeah.
I am
Nice.
greatly going to enjoy the ribs with the wife here in about 5-10 minutes.
Good. All right. Well, thanks for coming by, Aaron.
Not a problem. It's always a pleasure to be here.
And we will see you another, like next time, maybe. Next weekend is going to be the Global. So it'll be
Okay.
Sunday afternoon at 1 Eastern.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's stick this clam out here. Yeah, now that I'm outside, she is full board. Ooh, did that just try and close? Yeah, it tried to close.
Oh, man. Get some salt water in a bowl out of the tank and put it in quick.
But the problem is it's not doing anything. Oh, no. Yeah, there's tissue moving in here. The intake hole is opening more and more and more and more.
Well, it might be done now.
Yeah, it was probably on the way out, and perhaps it was the light that was the issue.
Yeah, it's dead. Ah, mosquitoes. Yeah, it's full bore dead. The interior is starting to recede and everything.
Well, try not to think about it as you're enjoying your ribs.
Oh, that's going to be the talk of the conversation. I don't want to get another one until you know you can keep them. Not a problem.
Yeah.
I am not until I have a serious, like, I'm going to say like Radion, upper end can easily produce 200 light or 200 par at, 20%.
You can probably get that with some of these Chinese black box lights, or even somebody in the chat commented that AI Prime from Aqua Illumination, they're around $200. So that might be a good step to take. I don't know if you use one on that tank or two. I don't know. They make a double one. There's the can't talk tonight. The 16 and the 32, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, that'd be too small for my tank.
Yeah, I don't think you need to go full on Radion.
Well, I was just referring to as something upper end on that par scale.
Yeah, I get you. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, other than, your standard Zoe and your mushroom every once in a while, they melt off. That's legitly my first.
Yeah. Well, you don't know till you try, right? Oh, did we lose him?
Hey, his phone was at 5%, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna take him out.
I'm so happy my macroalgae is growing. What little is left is growing.
Oh yeah, look at that.
It's got new beads on every one of them.
Wow. Yeah,
even
Johnny
though it's
Mart.
covered in hair algae.
That's the worst part, isn't it? Because you don't know if you take it off. If you tear it off, is it going to damage what's underneath? That's the problem I'm having.
Yeah, I think it's going to keep going. This stuff's pretty tough. I'm just happy that a little piece survived because
Yeah.
it's not easy to find this stuff.
Johnny Martinez says, thanks, Alex. Now I know the one I had in the past did leave its worm body.
Yeah, they
Battery
do
died.
eject some, they can eject their crown as well. I don't
I've
know
had that happen.
Yeah, I've never really watched it enough to see, like, I want to say I heard they can come back, but I don't know if that's actually true.
Mine never did, and it didn't want to stay where I put it, which is where it was safe. And I think I probably handled it so much it just got fed up and just kind of disappeared one day. And it kept getting buried by guess who? The green wrasse. So, yeah.
But the green wrasse didn't try to eat them.
Oh, maybe that's what happened. Who knows, right? Chili Wills is asking, what do you think about the new Sky LED? And have you run across this yet, Alex? The one from Neptune?
I watched a little bit of some footage from Reefapalooza to just see. I mean, I saw it's like 200 watts and it actually fits on Radeon brackets.
Yep.
So honestly, I'd have to see one. And, like I think the best way to look at any product that's out there is that it's probably going to work, but it's going to probably be a year or two before people can really make good comparisons on it, or at least see something like a BRS where they do the par readings and they do a measurement of spread, things like that, to just learn more about it. I just don't know much about it, and it's kind of it's interesting.
Yeah, I just feel like it's awesome for people who are Neptune customers who have Apex systems and who are using them. It's a great way to integrate absolutely everything into the systems. Like for me, I don't have any interest in even, I mean, if somebody gave me one, I might use it, but even then I don't think so because I'm sitting here under my gorgeous Orphex, can hardly wait to get these things plugged in and going. And I haven't even activated the programming yet on the Atlantics. I'm just waiting until everything's installed and we finish up with screening in the wires on this canopy. But yeah, the Sky, I'm like you. I know it's supposed to be powerful. I know it's a panel light as opposed to these point source lights. So things are migrating once again back to that array style of lighting. Which
careful, they're still going strong on their point source stuff.
They are, yep. They certainly are. Yeah.
And I think what's gonna be interesting is in a year or two, how are they holding up? Are people having is the software working the way it's supposed to?
Yeah.
Are the LEDs working the way they're supposed to? Or, are people, are the products actually coming out in a good quality to where it's not, we don't see something where there's failures and LEDs burning out or power supplies or just in general. I mean, that's the challenge for me, is that unless I physically see one and I could see like the workmanship and how it's put together. I would say though, I have no doubt the things. I'm sure they're growing corals just fine on them because everybody's. There's a lot of LED lights out there, and they don't necessarily have to be high quality to grow coral.
To work, no. Well, and one thing, I listened to Greg Carroll's live stream when he got back about it. And one thing he mentioned was that there's like a rubberized or a rubber housing around the light. And if it's the material that I think it is, it's really going to attract salt creep, and that is going to be hard to keep clean. Like, this isn't a criticism, it's just what I've learned from stuff that I've had in the past. And salt is a desiccant. And if that stuff's got any component of silicone in it, it's going to dry out and get brittle. So that's the only question I have, is the durability of that kind of a rubberized casing on it, you know? And I don't know one way or the other. I'm not making a judgment. Maybe it is the type of material that will last a long time. I don't know. And especially when there's heat present, because that's the other aspect of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see. And, you know, I tend to go, the last time I dealt with a light fixture that I would call quote unquote bad was JBJ Power Compact lighting.
Uh-huh. Yep.
That was bad.
I have a JBJ Orion, and that thing's a pretty decent light, but it's really hard to use.
It's LEDs though.
It's LEDs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Power Compacts came out. I had to deal with a lot with JBJ, and like, I honestly, like, those things were so freaking hot. Like, you burn your hand touching them.
Well, didn't they cause some melt problems inside those BioCube hoods? I seem to remember reading about that.
Yeah, that was, I remember that. But yeah, just their Power Compacts in general, like, was like the one light, that was the one type of lighting that I don't think anybody made one that was good. I mean, they did work. They grew corals, and my first coral lights were all Power Compact, but it grew a lot of algae too. I used two 6500K Power Compacts for my refugium lighting on my first bigger system.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that daylight spectrum. Broke Reefman has a question for you, Alex.
All right.
How long before bioluminescence occurs, or what is added to cause it to happen?
Well, so for it to occur, that depends on the organisms that are living in the tank. So if they live in the tank, there's a couple different kinds out there. So there's some bioluminescent organisms that generate their own photoproteins and I'm going to butcher this, luciferases or luciferase, which those are the chemicals that will generate the bioluminescent light. There are also other animals out there that consume those animals or consume other things that have those chemicals in them. They concentrate them and use them themselves, but they don't make them. So, like, brittle, some species of micro brittle stars will be bioluminescent. I had those in my last system. I don't know if I have any in here because I haven't seen any brittle stars. But and how long before you start to see it? Like, it just or what triggers it can really depend on the organism. Some of them use that as they could be used. The common term I heard a lot of scientists use, is that a lot of organisms use it as a quote unquote burglar alarm. So if you're in pitch black total darkness and you shine a bright light in a room, people, just like a person, will gravitate to looking at that light. So will all the other predators and things out there.
Oh. Some
of them use that to try and attract food. they mimic something in distress, and they're the thing they're waiting to eat it. And then there's also it's also used in mating displays or camouflage displays to try and hide from everything else around them. So honestly, I think a lot of people probably have it in their reef tanks, especially if they have some form of live rock.
I agree with you. It's just that we can never get dark enough probably to see it.
You know, honestly, some of the best activity I've had in it would technically be this tank was I blacked out all the pumps and everything, and the only thing there was the indicator lights on the radion, so there'd just be enough light to see, and it would be bright enough to see that.
Huh. You mean dark enough to see that, or the bright?
Yeah, it'd be dark enough. It'd be bright enough on the light displays being emitted to where you could see it, even with that amount of light.
Right.
So.
And I'm gonna have to be coming in here and sitting in the dark.
Yeah, I always challenge people to look for it. I think everyone thinks I'm half nuts in the first place for looking for it. Because then they're like, so how do you do that? I turn off all the lights, I cover everything with black electrical tape, and I sit in the dark, sometimes with a towel around my head up against the glass to block any light sources that I can't hit with electrical tape.
Yeah.
Well, how often does it happen? Well, it depends. Could see something right away, might not see something for a half hour. You sit there in the dark waiting.
You know what? I bet you could make something that you could put like a hairband around your head with some sort of struts out the side to hold the towel up, so you wouldn't have to. You'd have your hands free for your poking stick.
Honestly, I'd probably make a big curtain thing around it first.
Yeah.
Yeah, a poking stick is a good thing too. Like tapping the glass, stomping your foot on the ground next to a tank.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Sudden vibrations like the bioluminescent worms that are in my refugium at the moment. They're on that egg crate, so the egg crate's swaying around in the current, but when there's a disturbance like me, touching it or jostling it in a way that's not what it's used to,
yeah,
it'll set it off and it'll flash light.
Cool.
But a poking stick, tapping rocks, running it through the sand, all those things could set things off, or some things might just it might just start on its own. I've also if you got a lot of like Nazareth snails and hermit crabs, throw a small amount of mysis pellets in the tank in the middle of the night, because anything that gets set off as like a burglar alarm, like things disturbing it, a crab, a snail, a shrimp walking across something will set them off. And that's actually how I got a lot of it to go in my reef tank. Is I'd throw some food in there, and then that's where I'd see a whole bunch of activity, and then I'd look, there was a snail, a crab, a cucumber, somebody was moving across an area and set something off.
Oh, cool. So it's like it's like a wake of little flashes of light.
Mm-hmm. So, and it, just like a predator, your eyes get drawn to that light because
Yep.
You're like, hey, what's that?
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's how I spot my fish. I just kind of stare at a spot in the tank with a flow off, because of course I can only look down. You know what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
And I just keep watching. I stay really, really still. And the minute there's any movement, because the flow's off, it's not the corals, unless it's Xenia, your eye gets drawn right to it. And that's how I managed to see the blennies, that they're still doing well. Yeah.
It's fun for me. And then, well, once I get this system established, I am gonna buy some more live rock and live sand to see if I can get some more critters.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start raising the bioluminescent dinoflagellates again, because that was pretty easy and it was fun to dump them into the tank every now and then. Have a pretty bright light show for something that's just, I know it's the D word's kind of scary to people when I say diatoms, but
Yeah. But I mean, if you look at diatom, I didn't realize that there's so many species of diatoms and they're everywhere. And we really only see, well, one or maybe a couple of types that occur during certain processes of an aquarium cycle, or other things that happen in an aquarium that cause them to bloom. But they're like everywhere.
The one species that I get, they're actually big enough to see with your naked eye. Like
Wow.
they're pretty big.
Yeah. And you were doing that experiment with the luminescent dinoflagellates just as you were just before you started winding your tank down?
Yeah, I'd say like the last 6-8 months I had colonies of them going, and
yeah.
I also started working with bioluminescent bacteria too.
That's right, because we joked about you got to know the right people to be able to buy bioluminescent bacteria.
Yeah, and while I was trying to get the cultures out of the auger and to see if I could get them into a beaker with salt water and
yeah,
try to experiment with it a bit, because I was like, I wonder if I can get these bacteria to colonize in the fish tank.
mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
but
cool.
We'll see. I'll try again. I got plans.
You must have a hard time sleeping with all these plans.
Yeah, sometimes I get a lot to do still, so
yeah.
But it's like I'm just kind of, the fun thing is that I'm much more relaxed about the fish and the corals, because I'm like, they're in a good spot.
Yeah.
I don't have to be as concerned about the temp tank or anything. It's like I'm kind of back to this thing kind of runs itself. I just got to stay on top of a few things and it'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting Mollywood back because it's sunscreen season. And the little guy goes out a few times a day. And I haven't said anything. They know, like, the hands got to be washed first, but I only have to worry about it for tomorrow, and then we're going to be bringing her home Monday, and then everything will be back under my roof. And as much as other people are super helpful and you appreciate it, it's just not the same. There's a constant worry. And we lost one of the clownfish. This is something that happened last weekend. My daughter sent me a photograph. I'll try and find it as I'm talking. And one of the mushrooms, she said it didn't look right. And it was all closed up. These are those big green hairy mushrooms. And so she was worried about it. So she sent me the picture and I went, oh, okay. And we couldn't see the other clownfish. And sure enough, when I got there the next day to check, there was just the female clownfish left. There's no sign of the male. There's no indication of a body, like there's no parts anywhere, none of that stuff. And so we figure that either the male clownfish was on its way out and rested on one of the mushrooms and it ate him when he died. We don't know for sure, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that stuff does happen.
Here it is here. Let's see if I can drop it. This computer, show you guys. Yeah, and like, I don't know what you do about it. There is nothing you can do about it. But if it happened here, I might have been, because I'd be looking at it more often, I'd notice the behavior. Not that I could have done anything about it, because you can't really sometimes, but at least it might have given me a hint as to what was going on and where he, like, you know, what might have happened to it. So
Yeah, I remember. Well, and even sometimes when you're home, there's just such weird things that happen.
Yeah.
You know, I had one of the last batches of wrasses that I got for my reef tank. I put them in, they were doing fine, and then one of them was kind of hiding in an odd spot, and it had been out and it was doing good, and then I don't know, it's like an hour or 2 hours later, it is dead.
Oh my God.
And the funny thing was, is like when I went to get it out, it got away from me, and I'm like, where did this thing go? Like it got picked up by the current, and I didn't see where it went.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, where did this stupid thing go? It landed in the sea anemone the size of a dinner plate, and the sea anemone ate it. And I didn't see that until it was like a little tail sticking out, and I go,
Yep.
oh. I was like ripping the tank apart. I'm like, where is the body here?
Oh,
And then when I saw it, I'm like, well, that was an expensive meal.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So.
Yep. So there's what she sent me. And the clownfish on the left is the female, the bigger of the two. And
yeah, I
that
see that mushroom closed up over there. That looks like a feeding mushroom.
Yeah. But when I got there the next day, I poked and I prodded and I tried to pull its foot away. Like I tried to get them like separated so that I could see if there's any suspicious fish-shaped bulges inside there. And there's nothing. And plus those mushrooms are so dense across the back there. They came from 2 mushrooms that I had way over on the left of the tank, and they've killed everything they've touched. And they're so dense that I was in there with an acrylic rod, like a bright orange one, moving all over the place, trying to get them to close up. They would not close up. They're just indestructible. So I don't want them in the new tank. I'm not having them. They just take over too much. I might keep a rock of them in the sump and hope that they don't put out whatever it is they put out to propagate somewhere else. I don't know if they have to actually have pieces of themselves. So if they reproduce, like if they go through a sexual reproduction, you know, where they put out the
well, that would be an interesting video. Well, I thought they were safe in the sump, and there's about 500 of them starting to grow on the rocks.
I know. Now, where's that mushroom-eating fish, that copper band, I guess, or something like that?
I'm sure you can find an angelfish that would have a taste for them. It just might eat half the other stuff in your.
Yeah. I'm sure the other soft, the other LPS corals probably taste way better than soft corals. Isn't that always the way?
Generally. So.
Yeah. Life finds a way. Did I say hi to you, Hector? Calypsos? I missed the whole thing. We'll watch the replay. Yeah, that's great. Hector, we did smell some equipment. I got my hydros and going to be hopefully getting that thing set up. At least get the pH going so I can answer that question. And then, although maybe I shouldn't, because then it's going to be, oh my God, it's only 7.6. Now what do I do?
Well, I think that's, if everything is doing good, as far as you could observe, I think that's where it's got to go back to that whole thing. It don't, can't change things quick. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And for me, I do want to experiment with raising it, but I don't know where it's at either because I don't have a pH probe right now. So.
Yeah, exactly. And you're so right. If it all looks good, then great. And right now, the problem I have is algae is overgrowing some stuff, and it is encroaching on things that don't like it. And I just have to stay on top of that and do my best to deal with it. And then the other thing to think about is how much of the actual rock do I want to put in the new tank? Because I have those Tonga branch arches. love those things. They have utter chaos and citrus rhodactis that are like brilliant orange and green and yellow, and my orange rainbow pallies, and stuff that I really like, that's really colorful and beautiful. And the shapes of the arches are really nice, so I have to incorporate those as well. And just hope that I don't have a whole crap load of vermeted snails, or who knows what. But I don't know, we'll just deal with it.
Yeah, it's all you can do sometimes. I mean, it just takes time.
Yeah.
There's a natural predator to everything out there. You just got to find it.
Yep, that's right. I'm going to show you guys, before I forget, last time we had a stream was just after Reefkeeper got a whole bunch of corals from a tank breakdown, and he sent me a video that night because he couldn't come on the stream to show what he had, because he commented in the chat. So I actually have that video. I put it over here, and I'll show you what he got. And oh boy, is it ever nice. Is it this one? No, that's mine. No, that's this one. Let's see if this is it. If it isn't, I'll stop it really fast. Yeah, this is Phil's video of some of the new stuff that he got. And when I was watching this earlier, I thought, like, this tank just blows my mind. And if anybody hasn't come across Reefkeeper that's watching right now or looking at the replay, check him out, ReefKPR. He was talking about some smooth skin. That looks nice. Wow. Cool. So yeah, Phil, thanks for sending that, if you're listening or you're watching the replay, because that is something else. That's really, really cool. And then Benny sent me a video of his tank, May update. And this is also gorgeous. Look at this. Look at that. Really nice. Jealous. Pardon?
So it makes me jealous.
I know. Yeah, that's what I was feeling when I was looking at this. I'm longing to have my tank back. Look at that tang in the middle. The anthias he's got going on in here. The copper band over on the right. This is really, really nice. And is that all Montipora growing on the right-hand side?
I can't tell with the glare.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm looking at my tiny screen, so.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like Calastria on the left side, though.
It does. A big clump. That's about the size of what I have.
Yeah, those look like some nuclear greens.
Yep. And that tang is right in a bunch of stylo.
Yeah, stylo is just one of those cool classics. I love the look of it. I really wanted to. I never did find one, but I wanted to get one of the bright pink ones.
Yep. I had one of the bright pink ones. It was a frag I got at one of the local frag swaps or coral shows just before COVID, and it melted away when I moved it. So they're kind of fussy, but they're another one that once they take off, they really take off.
Yeah, that was one of the hard things. Is like I finally had a bunch of SPS starting to take off nicely. It's like I gotta tear it down.
I know.
I was like, I'm finally doing it, and then I'm like, well, yes, LPS and softies are still doing good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna probably give it I got to give it some time and let things mature, but then I'm gonna try and get a couple of small pieces of SPS again and try them out.
My sump has been running for 3 months now, and the rocks have been curing for 3 months. So I'm really hoping that gives me some credit, like time served, right? And But you know what I learned from the Red Sea tank? There's no sense going in too soon with SPS until all the parameters and everything are where they should be and everything's stable. Because just because you do all your tests and all of a sudden 1 week all the numbers are good. Yes, I'm gonna go get SPS. Well, you got to have it like that for a number of consecutive weeks before you can decide to go and take that chance. And that's what I'm gonna have to do this time, is just really take it a little bit slow, because there's no sense. It's such a waste of money. I mean, SPS, it is kind of sad when they die, when they're very uncommon and rare pieces, but because they're propagated, it's not the same as wild caught, that you get an Australian colony and you kill it. That's different, because that thing will never ever continue to be anywhere. But if you get a frag from somebody else, even if it's expensive, it's money that you're wasting. I mean, it's a shame. You shouldn't kill an animal ever, ever, ever. But it's not the same level of issue that it is if, for example, a scolimia or something that you can't propagate, right?
I've been getting away from some of that stuff more. Like when I have that last little coral crash and stuff, like I kind of was like, plus not to mention the in crazy high prices that they're getting for some of these now. And I'm like, that's going to be something that the way I think I'm going to handle that is when I'm growing out a bunch of acros and other things successfully that I can propagate myself, and I could do trades or credits.
Yep.
That's how I'm going to get that stuff. So.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, the expensive corals that I've gotten have been because I've had credit at the fish store, and I've been able to trade something that I've grown out and fragged for something that's come in that I can't get any other way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just, like I said, I want to start off, get a couple SPS once everything stabilizes, and then if they start to take off and they're stable for a few months, I do have a friend that they want me to be their backup for some things, and I was like, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Okay.
But please, I just want to make sure that I don't kill everything that you hand me, because that would kind of defeat the purpose.
That would be terrible. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, I'll start off with some commonplace stuff, make sure it's looking happy, and then go from there.
Yeah.
But, and that's part of the reason too. I want to, in terms of just growing things out faster. Like that was one of the things with the pH.
Yep.
That a lot of people have told me that, either told me personally or by watching videos of folks that have been doing it. And they're like, the growth is much higher. And when you're looking at a really, really big system, it's like, I'd like things to grow out a little bit faster.
Yeah.
So
I can't remember where it was I read this or heard this, or which maybe live stream it was on, but there was some discussion about pH enabling the skeletons of the corals to be formed much quicker when it's at higher levels. But that's where you really have to make sure the nutrients are also there to allow the skin to form, the tissue. Because if the skeletons outgrow the tissue, then you've got vulnerabilities where the skeleton isn't properly covered, and all it takes is one little glitch in your parameters for a couple of days or whatever, and that's where you could start getting your RTN and things like that. And I don't know, I don't remember specifically what I don't remember what the context was. I think it was of pH though, that there's fast growth, but it's got to be balanced because it's got to be healthy. So you have to make sure you have those nutrient levels to allow the tissue to form and the zooxanthellae to proliferate and all that kind of thing. So, yeah.
I'm looking forward to that challenge. Like,
yeah,
I've never I'm very limited in my SPS experience. So,
Yeah.
and even though I was starting to have things go right, really have to have that going for a few years before I'd be comfortable and going, yeah, I kind of understand this now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
And you need to know what to tweak if there's a problem to head it off at the pass, in the sense that you don't make the tweak when you see things starting to die. You make the tweak when you see the parameters starting to change, so that you can stop that from happening. Yeah. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, and what I've seen with SPS, they're not very forgiving once things start to go bad. At least LPS and some LPS and a lot of softies, you'll get some warning signs before things get real bad.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
we'll see.
We can only do our best and try and make sure we kill as little as possible. And and what I hate is after a while you forget how much you spent on that particular thing. Like it's not that you try to forget or you block it out, you actually don't remember. Especially if you go to coral shows and things like that, where you get like 10 or 15 things at a time. After a while, it just all blends together, and you forget the actual dollar value of the stuff. Yeah.
No, I feel the same way. So.
Yep. All right. Well, I am going to say, I think we're done for the night. It's 11:40, and I'm looking at myself going, geez, I look tired. It's probably from being outside today. So we will be back, everybody, next Sunday, May the 30th, I think it is. Yeah, May the 30th, global live stream at 1 p.m. And I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that maybe I have tank news by then. I was talking to the fish store guy. He had a delivery of tanks from this manufacturer, which unfortunately some cracked because they have an issue with shipping, with the packing of them. And from that experience, he found out that the courier the guy uses does have a 53-foot with a lift gate. So I could have a transport truck in my driveway when my tank comes to get the tank off the truck and in the garage. So that's kind of interesting, but at least we know that can happen. We're not having to wonder whether we're going to have to go and rent a forklift somewhere or whatever. I don't know. So I really hope. It's all you can do. It's like the whole hobby.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. Oh, hey, Mr. DKH. Good night. Good night, all. Yeah. So thanks for spending the time. And
As always.
I hope you have a good week. Is it Memorial Day or something down there? Do you guys have a long weekend?
Next weekend.
Next weekend. Yeah, we have our long weekend this weekend. So, yeah.
Fun.
Oh, yeah. I'm retired. Who cares? It's hard to remember the days of the week. Not that I'm complaining, mind you. All right. All right. Good night, everybody. And take it easy, Alex. And we had some fun tonight smelling equipment. And who knows? Maybe I'll invite some people to do the same someday. We'll have a big smello fest.
Oh, we'll have to be the judge.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. All right. Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night, Alex.
Good night.